I don't know why you thought you would keep on. Now that everybody knows your head down to your toes, you really did wrong to lock me up in the asylum. You knew I'd get out one day. Yeah. You knew I was coming after you. You knew one day I'd settle the score. I don't know why it's so quiet here, but yeah, you done me. Solitary confinement is not meant for me. The Thorazine and all the medication made me into a zombie. I don't know if I'll ever get over it. I use my psychic power to track you down, and I tracked you down. I tracked you down. You seem to think that I won't ever come back, but now I'm. That was me you waved to on Sunset. I saw you there. Some old BMW. Invited with you, going to check on your mom's house. Don't think that I forgot for 1 minute how you delivered me up to Satan. And I didn't object, because I'm not just like you. I have a point of view. You have no right over my soul. You have no right. I know you're mind controlled and your soul is gone. I know you're just a servant of darkness. Why does it have to be so difficult? Why did you not tell me you had set me up and I know you and them all. Now you're old, you're withered, you're ugly. It's all gone. You're not sexy, you're stupid. I don't know why you thought you would keep on. Now that everybody knows how you delivered me up to Satan. You really did wrong to lock me up in the asylum. You knew I'd get out one day. You knew I was coming after you. You knew one day I'd settle the score.
Say it with me. Cap, 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 cap. They are so full of the cap, man. I can't take it, need to break it. If they ain't got it, you know they gon' fake it, cause
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. I'm going to add Kevin Moore to the stream. Welcome, Kevin.
Terry, thank you so much for inviting us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here. It's definitely impromptu, so it's I love it when that happens, when it comes together. Also, I want to give a shout out to the song I was playing. That's Zeph Daniel, filmmaker, writer of the film Girl Next, which has won a lot of awards last year. You can watch it on Amazon Prime. He also has the Zeph Report on Spreaker. I also played Bill Hicks, the late great Bill Hicks. I love that piece, that speech at the end of his show, which is interesting because it was in London. Also, that last little clip is just a little promo for my essay that I wrote on my blog called The Neo-Homeless. It was my final in my English 3 critical thinking class. And so please visit my blog. I put all those links in the chat before the show. And I will be putting it on online too as well. Okay, so Kevin, you just recently did a show that I watched on your channel, and I'm gonna show a little bit of it. Do you want to just give like a kind of a quick overview of what happened, why you did it? Oh, and by the way, I did invite Joanne, and I got an email back, and she said no thanks.
Interesting. Well, I'm not
Great.
surprised, but thank you for doing that. Yeah, I'm glad you reached out. So I did an interview with a couple of talk show hosts or podcasters who have recently, in the past couple of months, interviewed Joanne, and they kindly invited me to interview them, to be able to interview them for my podcast, The More Show. And this interview was based on us going over new evidence, which you've seen some of that evidence, which we're going to talk about today, based on a guy called Captain Mark Richards, who is out there through his wife, who goes to conferences both in the US and abroad to promote his work and time in the secret space program. She also goes on national and international talk shows to do the same. And unfortunately for Mark, none of it is true. So he claims that he was framed by the deep state for the murder of a guy called Richard Baldwin, which was in 1982. And the reason the 40-year-old murder matters now, which he was denies taking part in the murder, but the reason it matters is because it gives the no credibility to his current story right now. And we've interviewed so many people to do with this case that knew Mark back in the day, and they've all placed him at certain times. I've sent you a timeline as well of what he says is fantasy, obviously, of where he says that he was in the mission reports and other interviews that Joanne does on his behalf, and obviously then the timeline states where he actually was. So it's a long process doing this docuseries, but we're getting there. It's getting there.
That's great. You know what? We have Jeff Reed here too. I'm going to add Jeff to the stream. Welcome to the stream, Jeff. You know what? We can't hear you for some reason. You're going to need to unmute yourself.
I told you I'm all thumbs when it comes to doing this. Greetings.
Hey, Jeff.
Greetings. Yeah.
Kevin and I talked earlier, and we feel it's better, that, he has a lot to add, and I'm really good at interrupting him to add other things, and we just hope this format works. I'm sorry that Joanne couldn't make it. I've spoken to her. I spoke to her on the phone yesterday. We have a very civil, we're very civil to one another. I like Joanne, and, she has her opinion about things, and we, of course, have our opinions. But I'll let you guys carry on, and then I'll interrupt Kevin when I feel it's time to be rude. No, I'm just kidding. But
okay. All right, great.
And I'm going to mute myself when I'm not talking.
All right. So I was thinking we would start with Mark Richards' talking points as far as like what he said about what he says he is, and what, you know, the secret space program and everything. And you actually have given me a document here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull that up, and then actually even do a share screen with it. It's nicely highlighted, so we can go over it. And you guys just go ahead and interject as you wish as we go through it. So
Sure.
Awesome. All right. So do you guys see that? Okay. Oh, there it is. I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and expand it and take us out of the picture so we can move along with it. Okay, so Mark Richards' timeline, 1953, June 28th, Mark Richards graced the planet. 1957, Mark was with Captain Gordon Cooper at Edwards Air Force Base and spotted a UFO. Cooper filmed the object, and Ellis took the film to Washington, Knights of the Cold War. Now there's a video here that we can watch about that.
So that happened when Mark was 4 years old. He was hanging out with Gordon Cooper.
Okay, so he was 4 years old at the time.
Yes. Of course, none of it's true.
That guy really gets around.
I should just say that anything in the yellow is obviously not true. So this is what Mark's fantasies are saying within his many reports that he does.
Okay. Anything in yellow is not true, which is the whole thing.
Yeah, except for that he was born. That's the only mistake I made on 1953.
Right?
At 4 years old, hanging out with Gordon Cooper. I mean, that's impressive.
Right, exactly.
A hero. He's a hero.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and now,
go ahead.
In 1958, his ties were not limited to aliens or space adventures. Mark states that his father was good friends with Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. Mark danced with Bacall at Mark Hopkins' event when he was 5 or 6. Carrie Cassidy, Project Camelot, Total Recall, and The Third Interview was where he made these statements. Do you guys have any comments on that? Maybe I will add you guys in.
Yeah, I just don't know what to say about that. It's just, I mean, this guy was blessed from day one.
Right, and Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's impressive.
And you've got to know that anyone he mentions in his secret reports, or even, obviously these people, everyone's dead. So no one that he talks about can ever be sort of interviewed to verify any of his information.
Well, I don't even think we would have had access to Bogey and Lauren Bacall.
Yes. I know, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Hi, Michael Williams. I see you in the chat there. Welcome. Okay, so in 1961, after President Kennedy's 1961 speech committing the United States to put a man on the moon, he and his father met the president in his limousine. Kennedy asked Mark to deliver a top secret message to Charles de Gaulle. Mark was just 7 years old, but Kennedy is said to have trusted him. Knights of the Cold War. What do you guys think about that? What do you think about that?
Well, if he was a little older, he'd have probably been in Kennedy's cabinet.
Yeah.
Right.
And another thing here, that everything that Mark sort of states as well, it's all sort of got this, as we go on here, of course, this sort of Captain Kirk, Star Wars tie-in, especially with Harvest Moon or the Vesta, China Gates, or most of his reports. So he seeded all that kind of thing in to make him look like this very, important figure that has many. Well, he's got 7 wives. Well, yeah, 7 women. 7 wives out there, either on this planet or out there in the universe.
I just want to say, anyone new to this information, we are not doing a review of comic books. All right.
Yeah.
This guy
I will
actually.
Well, Well, you know what? Jeff had an idea today is what they should do is like, let's say he does admit his guilt and he even gets to be paroled, right? Because that's on the table.
Yeah, no, I was me and Kevin were going to discuss this after this.
Okay.
We kind of ran over a rough basic format because, neither one of us will probably be here for the whole show.
Right.
Well, as soon as you've mentioned it, though, Jeff, as soon as Tere's mentioned it, let me just say this about the parole. If we're going to talk about it, right? When he gets his if he gets his sentence commuted, it'll be 25 to life, which is currently what his crime partner Cross and Hoover is serving right now. 25 to life gives you access to the parole process, but if he's going to go through the parole process, they've still got to see progress in him as an individual. Is he remorseful for what he did? And is Susan Baldwin, the murder victim's sister, going to turn up at the parole board? She turns up for all the Cross and Hoover parole board hearings, and that's going to be tough as well because she's going to give a victim impact statement.
Yeah,
and of course, the DA will be there as well because it was Ed Barbarian that changed the laws in Marin County so that the DA has to be there nowadays at the parole board hearings.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to mention this quite a few times through this podcast, but he's going to have there is a possibility that he could be released, but it's not going to happen unless he shows some remorse.
And admits to doing it.
Showing remorse is the same thing as admitting to doing it.
Absolutely. And then he'll be free as a man who's always done the murder.
He's got to decide what he wants to do. Does he want to die in prison or does he want a release date?
Right.
He's getting up there. And I mean, the guy's got to be worn out. I mean, look at this. He was palling around with Gordon Cooper at age 4.
Right. And Kennedy and limousine and secret space stuff as a child. It's really impressive. And, and he would make a good comic book. And maybe if he does get paroled, he should just wipe everything out. Let's make a movie out of it.
Well, Corey Good has.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, so let's continue with our little
Can I just say one thing? Can I just say one thing with the timeline?
Sure.
I have to just make a correction here. Bobby Ray Inman is one person who's actually alive, and I've spoken to his office, and basically they wouldn't come on for an interview, but they just denied everything.
Okay. Now let's see. 1961 again, Mark met aliens at various times growing up, including a 9-foot raptor prince who was at the 1961 conference. Mark met Arethusa, a woman. 1962, Mark and his babysitter were attacked by human and non-human men in black, engaging Mark in a fierce gun battle with the enemy. He held his own, defending himself and his babysitter, who'd been immobilized by a sonic weapon until his father and his men could come to his aid. Knights of the Cold War.
9 years old, man. Yeah. You just gotta hand it to this guy.
Right.
9 years old, and he was already in his first firefight. But at least he admitted he had a babysitter.
Yeah, and
that's the only true part of it, Jeff.
Is the babysitter around to even say anything? Right. I mean, who?
That's a good question. Yep.
Right. 1966 to 1970, Mark participated in various tests involving psychic abilities and remote viewing at Letterman Army Medical Center in the San Francisco Presidio. Cassidy's 7th interview. Everybody has remote viewing, right? Possibilities, it seems like. In 1967, 14-year-old Mark enrolled into Sir Francis Drake High School and started flying at 14.
Yeah, there's no FA, there's nothing from them. There's no licenses. There's no nothing. He hasn't even got a license.
And in 1967, Mark was an Army advisor consultant as well as for Vietnam. Now, how old is he now? Is he still 14?
I think he was 13 actually.
What? He was what?
13.
13. So 13 years old, he's an advisor in the Vietnam War.
Yeah, it's just a waste that he's wasting away in prison. He would have been a general right now if he didn't go to prison.
Actually, you know what? I'm looking at my timeline here. I may have made a mistake there. He was 14. Terry, you're right. He was 14.
Okay.
But even at 14, and obviously, you know, I've said this to Jeff as well. We've done all the searches with everyone involved in this case, and everyone that was actually serving. Records have come back. Now, you can't get all the records. If someone's alive, right, it's difficult to get the records without their permission. But the records came back to say, yes, we have the records from the National Archives. Every time with Mark, and we've done so many searches, there is absolutely nothing because nothing exists.
Okay. So now in 1967, Mark was given an Army Operational Commission to consult with the Stanford Research Institute 3 years before the SRI was established. Wow, that's also impressive. In 1969, a 15-year-old Mark receives administrative remarks Naval Achievement Medal with combat.
Now, do you remember this, Jeff, from Project Avalon, where it was taken apart there, and there looks like a typewriter, probably Mark's typewriter, was used to make this, mock this up, and actually it doesn't show nothing. Really, it doesn't show nothing, and it definitely does not belong to him. It's stolen valor, if that, whatever this is.
All right, and let's see, where am I here? All right, in 1969, 16-year-old Mark meets Mike Peck, future crime partner at Sir Francis Drake High School. Is there really a Sir Francis Drake High School?
Oh yeah, there is. Yeah,
Yes,
I spent a lot of time in Marin. My whole family, my mother and father grew up there.
yeah.
And, you know, my uncle, they all did. My uncle was a police officer when this happened. It's like, you know, yeah, Sir Francis Drake High School's there.
I went there, Jeff. I actually went there in the end, and I traced his school books down, his yearbooks, and took pictures. That's all coming on the docuseries, so we can confirm he was there. Plus his friend Russ Blum, who was someone that Mark joined with later on, took us down there to go through all his records as well as Mark. So we've got all that.
Right, and then in 1970, Mark's first trip to the moon. Okay, so
hey, that's believable because we just landed on the moon in '69, correct?
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
But was there another trip that happened?
Whether it was an acid trip or just his imagination, but yeah, I mean,
and
Armstrong was there in '69, and
yeah. What's really hard, isn't it? I think for all of us here is if we had someone that had come to us with this, you know, we would. It just, I mean, I don't get where reality, how you could believe that, but we'll get into the reasons why maybe a bit further on. But yes, that's
Okay.
it's not true.
And then in 1970, the USS Hornet decommissioned.
Right, get this, right. So we're just in the early stages of just getting an interview with the museum there. I've been down there, but I've done all the drone shots and everything else, right? That thing was decommissioned. All its electrics were taken out. It wasn't moving anywhere. So how they went on the missions with the USS Hornet, one can only say it's not true. I was just saying there, Jeff, that the decommissioned USS Hornet had all its electrics taken out. So how it moved, I suppose it has some sort of tugboat that took it out to the mission, but she never said that.
Yeah, and you know, we got Alameda Naval Air right there, and they're moving ships in and out all day, night long. Subs too. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe he rewired it.
It's just incredible what he started doing at age 4.
That's the most impressive. I mean, you know, did he still wet the bed back then, or like what was like? What are you impressed? He must have been like a child prodigy.
Obviously, you know, and he was in a firefight. Him and his babysitter
talking to the president at 7.
Yeah. Hanging out with JFK in his limo.
Yeah.
you know, and Bogey and Lauren Bacall.
Right, dancing with them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this guy's lived a princely life.
Yeah.
He really has. He's very impressive.
That is
Very,
true.
very impressive. But we're getting up to
We're
where
into
he was on
the
the basketball
1970
team at Dominican College when he says this stuff was going on. So he was also a pretty busy person to be going to college and doing all this when we know what he was doing for the most part.
right.
But
Okay,
I should
so
just
now
say, I should just say this, Terry. I should just say this: that a lot of the battles that he takes part in these reports that he puts out there, which people should go to Joanne's website, the EDHQ website, to be, you know, to look at this themselves and, you know, make a purchase, make a donation to the non-for-profit that she's got. That most of these battles only lasted 90 seconds, so there were 90-second battles. So that's how he was able to get back so quick.
Yeah, I've never heard
90-second battles. Wait a second. That's
these galactic battles and stuff.
90 seconds.
Really quick. And
That's
probably use that ray gun that he used with his babysitter. I don't know. I'm only speculating there. But the guy is a friggin' hero. He really is.
You can do that battle in a YouTube short. If it's
Yes.
about as long, right?
There you go.
I want to do a 90-second battle. That just seems. All right. Now, 1970, news reported that Mark was involved in an auto accident, placing Mark at home. Was he ever in an accident?
Yes, he was. I've got the newspaper clipping.
Okay. 1970, Mark was training with the Raptors Imperial Fleet War Games in England. So he went to England too. And now, wait, he's still in high school, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
believe so.
When did he start his car theft ring?
He might have
That was
graduated.
1973. That was.
Yeah. All right. When I talked to Joanne on the phone yesterday, they have this fair every year north of San Rafael, Marin County, by Novato, just east of Novato, called the Renaissance Fair, and it's really huge. And it's a bunch of Renaissance LARPers. I had friends that used to, cater food there and set up food stands, and they'd make money. Like this one woman that worked for my mother, she used to sell her Mexican food there. And it's a big, big deal. It really is. And the Renaissance LARPers love it, and it's totally harmless. It's actually pretty cool. It's very, and I asked her, I said, he was probably into that, because I watched Kevin's video yesterday where he's showing the castles and stuff in the neighbor's yard. She said, oh yeah, he was really big time into that. And it's a big subculture of people in the Bay Area that do that. Because that's because a lot of the news reports that came out when this gruesome event occurred, it started saying a murder in Camelot and stuff like that, and people immediately associate it with Project Camelot. Now, it had nothing to do with Project Camelot. That didn't happen until many years later. That was part of Carrie Cassidy's brain trust, her tiny brain trust. But yeah, it had nothing to do with that. But yeah, he was really into the Renaissance Fair. And like I say, there's thousands of people in that area that are in the whole Bay Area.
Well, I'll just add this, that in Mark's bedroom, it was called Tiny Town, because his mum painted the room and decorated it in the theme of Camelot. Mark was always into Camelot, always. And Tiny Town was his...
That went right up into his college years.
Oh, of course it did. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, she was bathing him, correct?
Russ Blom, in his interview that's to be part of the docuseries, talks about his time when Mark went to, his mother called him upstairs, and they were like sort of grown teens at the time, and yeah, mum bathed him in the bath, and that sort of put him off going back round.
come on, Marky. It's time to get your bath.
I want to bring up somebody here. Also, Mario Taco says Pendragon cult. I never heard about that again, even if I look into the occult. It's what happened. Like maybe we should explain that.
It's a cult that never really got off the ground. It was going to be one, but it was just basically Mark Richards, and this is what he taught these little kids.
What he did, though, is to my understanding, is that he created a belief. Like they were the Pendragon cult. It was Pendragon Society. And it was based. It had an Arthurian theme to it. He was wanting to bring Camelot to Marin County, and he was basically also a terrorist because he had plans to bomb things and this and that. He was a Charles Manson-like leader that groomed young men to kill a person, his friend, Richard Baldwin. And that's what happened. And so when I say the Pendragon cult, it's not like, another sect of the occult, like Pendragon or something that somebody's practicing. It was someone who actually called it, created a cult and went to prison for it. And now he is like he's been on Project Camelot. Carrie Cassidy's done these interviews about him. He's a big secret space program.
That's the real cult. That is the real cult. All of his followers. That's a cult too.
That's a cult too.
That's the real cult, because when this started, it was just a bunch of young kids that he hired to work for his failed non-licensed contracting business. Just the job he was doing over at Richard Baldwin's was just a little piece of concrete where they brought in some ready mix and a wheelbarrow. He was a failed contractor. He never had his contractor's license, but he convinced these kids. You just read the stuff you've been reading in the yellow here. You can see how his imagination is.
Well, let me just add this: they all had names. They all had names, right? So the boys had different names, and they had different obligations when the succession of Marin County was going to happen. They were going to plan to destroy bridges and take over Marin County. These boys would have different duties within there. Now there was a number of them. I mean, I've singled out obviously Cross and Hoover and Andrew, which were the two accomplices that took part in this whole thing, that the killing of Richard Baldwin and the disposing of the body and much more, right?
Well, Lon's comment right there, it's a mix of John Wayne Gacy and Charles Manson. He's absolutely right. John Wayne Gacy hired a lot of kids that he ended up killing.
Well, I should say this, that when you say that he was with no contracting license, actually he stole his brother-in-law's contracting license. Mark stole Joe, his brother-in-law's contracting license, because Joe in the end had people phoning him up saying, you've done a terrible job, we want our money back, blah 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 blah. So we have interviewed Joe, and he's given his full testimony of what Mark did to him. So no, he never had a contracting license. He stole one instead.
And they were little tiny jobs that he hired these kids.
Yeah, but he still stole the contractor's license from his brother.
And then he had sleepovers at his house with these kids.
I also want to interject that it was one of the first Dungeons and Dragons type of
that's right, cases
as well. And for those of you also that I just want to let you know that Kevin Moore on the Kevin Moore show, he has been doing a documentary on this about Carrie Cassidy's. Basically, Captain Mark Richards was launched through Project Camelot. So. And then, Jeff, you've lived around the area, so did you pretty much see all of this?
I brought this project to Kevin. I brought it to several people. I tried for 5 years to get somebody to listen to the truth, because this was big news. It was very big news in my family. My grandmother lived right about a mile from Richard Baldwin. My uncle was a police officer at the time there. And yeah, it was big news in the area. When I first started seeing this Captain Mark Richards shit, I didn't think much of it. And then I go, wait a minute. This is the I'm not allowed to cuss on here, right?
Well, I mean,
I almost put that. This is
it's okay. I'm not going to have a
guy that brutally murdered that person. And anybody that had Joanne on, or even Terry Cassidy talking about it, I got pretty irate. And I would comment. And Kevin had her on there before. People could call me a troll, but I was talking the truth. I was getting pissed. And I had messaged Kevin a year before. And then he has Carrie Cassidy on there. And Kevin had brought up at the end of that interview about my email exchange with Kevin. And then she immediately goes, oh, well, it sounds like this guy was taken over by the dark side, or he's CIA, or he's this. She's going on and on about me, and she doesn't even know me. But I knew all about this case. I knew all about it. It was big news back then. Well, now that Kevin's researcher, he saw it was international news.
But Carrie is
I brought the project to Kevin.
Carrie's saying it's true. It's in he was a secret space program. She's denied all of the claims of that this was real, that he really was who he is, and that the whole thing he's still
it's a false flag. He's a political prisoner. Yeah.
And he's a political prisoner. And wasn't he going to be part, like Simon Parks was going to help him get
well, yes.
President Trump?
Oh, another guy that's amazing.
Wow.
He's amazing too. Yeah, he said he has it on good authority that Trump was going to pardon him. But the problem with that is Mark Richards is in state prison, and the president doesn't have any authority to pardon a state prisoner. Only federal prisoners. But,
that's right.
You can't tell Simon anything.
Well, that's why Simon got a place on the docuseries. So later on in the docuseries, as it continues, that's when the Simon Parks portion, which is ongoing right now, is going to be on there.
That December came and went, and no pardon. Now,
well, don't forget, Jeff. Don't forget that he went down to a cafe in London, had hot chocolate, because we need to know that, and he met one of his MI5 contacts or MI6 contacts. I don't know which one, but I will do for the docuseries. And they gave him information that confirmed his belief in that Mark was part of the Navy, and that was, part of some clandestine program. None of that's true. He lied to his audience, and when he lied to 60,000 people in that video that's still out there, I realized then that that anything that he says is just not true. And if he's prepared to lie on something as small as that, you can be damn sure he's prepared to say a load of nonsense about other things as well. And that's what's continued to happen.
These little children's stories, which is what this is, they're fine for children and stuff like that. But in this day and age, these are thousands of adults that are buying this stuff. They're more gullible than we were when we were children. That's just something going on.
Jeff, isn't that the case that when you have someone like Kerry who has a big platform, and something about big platforms, sometimes this may not be true, but you just feel that, well, she must have done her homework. She must have checked it out.
She's a researcher.
She's a researcher. And she's got
I
great
just sit here like this.
She does her research.
Really?
I love that video that you keep. By the way, again, if you're just joining, Kevin Moore is doing a docuseries on his channel about Captain Mark Richard, exposing him, who he really is, and so there's a big scam's been going on here. And another thing I want to bring up is there's other people, like, for example, James Rink, a big part of the Super Soldier program is Captain Mark Richards being woven into the narrative with everybody else. There's another channel named Bruce Ryan. he does reptilian type of stuff, and he's used Captain Mark Richards and everything else with James Ring in the narrative about the reptilians. So a lot of people believe this, and I think that they have no idea the real truth or the real background about how this happened, how he's in jail, how he's in prison. And later on tonight, after we go through the point and everybody's here, I'm gonna play a clip of Kevin Moore's recent show on his channel, and it will give you a great overview of everything here. So hang in there, guys. Right? But because I think this is an in and of itself, this is an interesting story. If you're just going to go talk about true crime
by the day,
right? And then it's involved in this UFOlogy, YouTube, social media,
and supported by MUFON.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We can't leave out MUFON.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. Supported by
because Laura Fenton is a MUFON spokesperson, and she has Joanne on. Yeah, she has Joanne on to the MUFON events that she puts, whether online or back in the day conference, which they are now. And so we're going to get a statement from MUFON with
their friends, and friends are going to support one another. So
get this. Laura Fenton. Get this, Jeff. Laura Fenton reckons that she knows people back in the day that were from Marin County, and these people know that this was a setup for Mark. So there are enablers of Joanne Richards, because I know that I don't know this for sure. I've suffered from mental abuse, and I feel that Joanne is, and these people are enabling her. These people are enabling her.
Like Sonoma or something for a while, but other than that, I don't know much about her. I know her and Joanne are good friends.
Yeah.
Friends are not, this is tripe. This is bullshit. But all right. That's
okay.
Fine. But when you think about how many lives it has just totally destroyed.
Well, we don't care about that, do we? Because Mr. Baldwin's a pedophile. So it's okay.
Right.
He's a pedo. Now, I mean,
and that's awful that they accuse him of that. And in your video, the detective pretty much denies ever hearing anything.
He wasn't a detective. He was a retired DA.
Yeah,
okay.
He
put him away, Terry. He put him away.
He prosecuted the case.
Okay. And there was no claim of child pornography or
none at
nothing
all.
like
It would have
that.
been none at all.
Right.
Let me add another little thing into this. Mark Richards had a good team of lawyers, very expensive. And they didn't try to defend him or get him off. There was no defense. Their whole agenda was to keep him off of death row. And they did. They knew there was no defense. They had him dead to rights on everything. They used some rulings in the Charles Manson case in this case.
I'm just going to say, Jeff, Barbarian, Ed Barbarian, the retired DA that we're going to play in a bit. There's many things I didn't include in the clip that went out on my channel, but one thing we did talk about was him, Shapiro, and he actually said what a great lawyer he was. And no, that's not true that he did a bad job at all.
No, he did a good job, because Mark was going to the gas chamber. That's what we have at San Quentin. That's what Scotty Peterson's waiting for, and whoever else. Do
you know there's maybe new evidence on the Scotty Peterson trial? I saw.
Let's not get sidetracked.
Okay, all right, let's not get sidetracked. Okay, so let's get back to the timeline here. Where do we leave off? Okay, so we went to Mark was training with Raptors Imperial Fleet War Games in England. Fort Baker in 1970. Fort Baker, after Mark had come from the moon, he was a senior in high school. 1971, January 22nd, Mark earned his non-existent teacher's credential in elementary teaching in California. Is that true?
No, I've got all the certificates of Mark, and they're all faked.
Okay. 1971, September 18-year-old Mark supposedly liked security in interstellar meeting Iran, PIT report.
Yes, we're saying like the Interstellar movie. It's based almost around the ideas of that. Sometimes some of it is.
Okay. 1971 senior picture in Sir Francis Drake High School, located in Anselmo, California.
San Anselmo.
San Anselmo.
Yeah.
Yes, and we've got all those. Yeah.
Okay. 1971, Mark graduated June 12th from Sir Francis Drake High School. He is 18. 1972, Mark attends College of Marin, where he was on the 1972 honor roll Daily Independent Journal San Rafael Marin.
Let me just a helicopter pilot in Nam then?
Well, hang on. Let me just add something to that College of Marin. He was actually going there to study to pick criminology to become eventually a cop. So, you know, I have to say one thing. Yeah, I have to say one thing.
I mean, for an overachiever like this, why would he want to be a cop? He's way overqualified for that.
Well, it all stops in 1973 when we get there for a reason.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead, Terry. Go ahead, Terry.
Hilarious.
You go ahead. You had a
no. Well, I would just if you just read it on, it will go on to what I'm saying.
In 1972, he served in Vietnam as Army chopper pilot. After high school, he was there for 6 months, starting in the summer of 1972, and that's quoted by Joanne Richards.
Yes.
Yeah, even though they were already pulling people out of Vietnam.
That's right.
They started doing that in 1970. I have a friend that did 2 tours over there, signed up for another one, and he said no, they weren't. It took a few years to pull everybody out. So when they were pulling everybody out is when Mark said they took him.
Yep.
Okay.
Even though we got his picture on the basketball team at Dominican College.
Okay. 1973. In 1973, October 25th, Mark was arrested in the Sleepy Hollow car ring while in class at Marin College. Mike Peck and Bill Jorgensen, who were also arrested.
Yeah, so basically I interviewed Mike Peck, and Mike's give his full testimony on the docuseries to say that obviously Mark was part of this car insurance fraud ring, and he should have been sentenced down with the rest of them as well. But he had his lawyer at the time, guess who? Carl Shapiro, who was a great lawyer, and got him off the charge, and it was all dropped for him. But these other two had to serve time for him.
And in 1973, September, he served as a courier for his father in Chile and was there when the Pinocchio coup took place against the democratically elected Allende government.
Yeah, I think, yeah, well, yeah, just no.
Okay. 1974, Mark received an advanced German degree at the Regent School of Languages, London.
He must have been commuting.
Yeah,
he must have been commuting from Dominican to London.
Yeah, on Minerva, his spaceship. Now we're in talks with that college. The college still exists, and we'll have something to say about that soon. But I think as the other certificates, they are not real. He's just used someone else's certificates in prison and scrubbed the name off and given it to Joanne.
In 1974, in June of 1974, Mark attended McGill University in Montreal, California, received a BA in English with distinction. Wow, he just pops out these degrees like nothing.
Yeah, why would he want to be a cop? That's what I can't figure out. He's an overachiever.
Well, isn't he studying to become some sort of physicist right now, or that he was studying at prison? They don't give those type of degrees or PhDs out in prison. You can't do that. But no, that's not true. That certificate was faked.
And in 1974, while attending Dominican College in San Rafael, Mark started a new school paper, the Metamorphoses, that he pledged would try to keep most of the ivy up while trying to express some of the better new ideas that could help the students at the Dominican find their own goals. And
that all is probably true, but
that is true. We've got the newspaper. Yeah.
Okay. In 1975, 22-year-old Mark, the Vietnam ends, Dominican University, attended the College of Marin, Mark Richards Dominica photo ping. There's a
Yep.
photo there.
So we've spoken to the university, and they released what records they could, but there were some great pictures there of Mark and his professor friend, Marshall Dill.
And in 1975, Mark was the usher at Doug Van Ammen's wedding. Who's that? Who's Doug Van Amen?
Doug Van Amen was a friend of Mark. Well, actually, he attended the same college, and Doug in the end became a newspaper reporter and actually did an article for one of the San Francisco newspapers on the killing, on the murder. He actually got to visit with Mark's parents at the time, who were not letting many people see them.
They had reporters just camped out of their house. I feel bad for what they had to go through. And then since he knew Mark, he went up there. Kevin dug all this up.
And
I listened to what he said, and he said, it's Doug, and
that's right.
Oh, thank God! And they let him in, and then he nailed him for a news story, anyways. But
But he confirmed in his interview with me that none of this is true. That Mark was never in the secret space program. Mark wasn't even in the military. And Mark actually, was Karen Bacon, his wife, that said how much Mark hated Vietnam. He didn't want to be part. He didn't want to be part of it, and he didn't want to follow in his dad's footsteps in the military. That's because Karen, Mark's ex-wife, spent time with Lois, which is Mark's mother, and she had a twin sister. Her actual twin sister, Karen, Karen's twin sister, actually dated Richard Baldwin, the murder victim.
Really?
Yeah.
How close they all were. Yep.
It was one big happy family with, I guess there was a little dysfunction in there.
Now, and also in 1975, Mark and Ellis take part in the evacuation of Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City. Since Mark was the pilot.
I bet he was the helicopter pilot on that one they pulled down from the sky and it went by. It crashed. There's just not much this guy hasn't done.
And since Mark was a chopper pilot for only 6 months, we cannot determine when he would have resumed duties. In 1975, he became Navy Captain, Air Force Special Forces at 23 years old. A lateral transfer allows Mark to be a Navy captain. Note, a Navy captain is the equivalent of a colonel.
And that would have been a higher level than his father even was. And he was obviously, at the age that he was. I mean, you tell me if it makes any sense.
No, it doesn't. None of it. But
it does to Joanne, because she's out there promoting it. It does to Joanne. And she's watching this right now. It does to you, Joanne. It doesn't to us. It's a shame what he's done to you. I do feel sorry for you. I really do. But you're not ready to hear that part yet. But I'll keep going.
In 1976, he wrote a walking tour of San Rafael with students and staff and Dominican College, Dominican University of California walking tour. Is that true?
Yep, that's true.
Okay.
San Rafael.
Yeah. In San Rafael.
Yeah.
In 1976, he graduated from Dominica College with a BA in history. God, he's got so many degrees. I can't believe it.
That's the only true degree that he's got, Mary. That's the only true one.
And that's a very good, distinguished Catholic university or college. Dominican?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that is a very good place. It's prestigious.
Yes.
Okay.
See, I'm from Southern California, so you don't know this, but that is... that's pretty big time stuff if you're Catholic. It is. No, I'm not making fun of it. It's a serious school.
In 1976, July, he received a certificate of education in Exeter, UK 8.
No, that certificate's fake.
Okay. In 1976, Mark and Russ lived together in Madrone Canyon.
That's true.
In 1970.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Well, I was just going to say we got Russ to go back to the places and the old houses, so we filmed outside the old properties that they used to have together, and he talked about what they got up to in these places, and so that I can confirm.
Okay. In 1976, Battle of China Gates. What is that?
That's one of his made-up fantasies about the 90-second battle.
One of those Riddick trilogies, Chronicles of Riddick. Or that one with Kurt Russell when he was a super soldier and they got rid of him for the guy. Yeah, he was a lot. I think he was at the Battle of China Gates.
Okay. 1976, 23-year-old, spring, May 1976, Dominican University graduated in BA in history.
Mm-hmm.
That happened to get, that's double written there.
Well, yeah, I think that's maybe when he picked up the certificate or went for graduation. So you pass and yeah.
In 1977, September, August, Battle of Harvest Moon. So we've got China Gates and Harvest Moon. Is that just made up? It must be made up.
Yeah, these are reports that you can buy from the EDH website. I'd suggest people buy it if they want to see what this is really all about. Like I say, Captain Kirk and his and his many wives. Well, Star Wars as well. Don't miss that out. So yeah, these are just made up battles that he just had fun writing as a science fiction writer. But obviously, they're claimed as true. And Joanne Richards uses these battles in her presentations across when she, the many conferences that she does. So.
And are these paid conferences? I mean, I don't. Do they pay them for the conference?
Yeah, some do. Yeah, some do. Yeah, some do.
Okay, and then they can bring their
get into that one she threw you out of, Kevin.
Say again, Jeff.
How much did you have to pay to get into that one that she had you thrown out of?
Oh, well, I went under a pseudonym and I went up dressed up. I cannot remember. It was like just because I only went for the one talk or the half a day thing. It was something like maybe $40, something like that. I can't quite remember.
Wow, I saw Kiss on a school night in high school at Winterland for 75 cents.
Jesus.
Hey, I want money back.
Yeah.
$40. Okay, carry on.
Okay. Let me see. Where we leave off. All right. So in Harvest Moon, 1977, August 26th, The Future Castle.
Let me just say about Future Castle. So this was another venture that him and Russ were going to do. We went round the seminary building in just close to where he lives. They were going to set up a school there, and I actually dug out the article records of this non-for-profit that they set up, and it shows Mark, on the planet, signing in front of a notary to say he's part of this company. So it was just, just another a thing to place him, basically. Yeah. Okay.
And then we have between 1978 and 1979, he's a sales editor with Seritum, Journal of Ecotopia.
Yep, that's true.
And he sells ads, edits specific sections, works as the art director, helps to distribute the paper in the Northwest, and writes for a gang of shoestring ecotopians over there in El Cerrito. What is an ecotopian?
Oh gosh, I think it was a new way of living, out of society, away from the government control kind of thing. Hippie-ish.
Okay, and then Mark is a part of a group seeking land to develop their ideas. All right, 1978, Circa Mark assigned to the top secret Aurora project, a hypersonic spy plane. Mark also piloted the SR-71M Minerva, a biological craft that he alone could fly.
He's the only one that has the keys to it.
Yeah, she's like a girlfriend. She's a bit like a girlfriend. She only wants him there, and she always protects him. If she felt that he shouldn't be on this mission or shouldn't go on this planet, for example, she wouldn't let him out the craft.
Yeah, he's the only one that can fly it. It's custom made for him. Yeah, but don't steal it. It just knows him.
Well, and again, that he was on missions with his father in Minerva, some of them, I believe, or whatever missions they were doing, right? I don't think, like I said in my other show that this all came about, I don't think Minerva had disabled facilities because his father was disabled from the waist down. He was in a wheelchair, the latter part towards the court trial. So, What do you say to that, right?
Well, I mean, just the idea of that the plane has a consciousness that only he can be a part of. So it's
right.
Kind of, yeah. 1978, the ship involved in the Philadelphia experiment reappears in the desert. Mark is there to meet it. Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah. How about that?
Too bad he didn't get any pictures, though.
Well, I'm just laughing at the thousands of people that buy this crap. That, it's just, I mean, come on.
It's unbelievable. And then there's so many people just defending it so hard.
These are adults too, It's like,
yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm getting a big
no, it's okay. It's just it's so much. I didn't even know, Kevin. I didn't even know like all of this was.
Well, this is why it's taken me so long to do this docu-series. There's so much to it. And don't forget, there's still got to go through this stuff, right? I'm still taking, there's also the interviews that she's done and going through all of them and cross-referencing when different things are said at different times. It's a long, drawn-out process. This is taking years.
Yeah, Mark's been a busy person.
Yeah,
yes.
Definitely. All right, in 1978, Mark was head of Operation Moondust. Mark commanded Ellis in this project and went to retrieve craft in Bolivia, Tarja 56430. Tarja report make is in Chile, and Arethusa woman he met in 61 at the Raptor conference is now in a human body. Sorry, I really messed up there.
Yeah, no, it's okay. There's a few mistakes, so don't worry. Yeah, this is all.
Yeah, well, he says he was with Ellis, and when Mark was going to court in 82.
Yeah,
Ellis was in a wheelchair then. I know he had prosthesis legs, because his father was a test pilot and he had a pretty bad crash. Man, I guess Ellis was well enough to go do this, go retrieve some craft.
Well, he had a metal plate. He had a metal plate in his head. He couldn't even have any more children. I mean, he was paralyzed.
Right. I think Mark was born with a steel plate in his.
It was a gradual decrease really in his health. I'm not sure if he had prosthesis legs. I don't know about that, but he wasn't in great shape. And when it came to the 1982 trial, well, at that point, he's in bad shape, and he's using between a walker and a wheelchair. So.
And then in 1978, Mark was head of Operation Moondust. Mark commanded. Okay, I read that already. 1979, circa, Mark and Baldwin removed equipment at the Seritim offices that Mark considered to be his. The magazine stopped publishing shortly after that. Is that true?
So yes, it's true. And he's with Baldwin at this time. They met because Mark had an office that was close to Mr. Baldwin's shop. So somewhere in that space, that's where they came together, and they both had the same sort of world views. Mr. Baldwin's world views were that the government was bad. There was, they were going to take over. They were going to take the rights away from people. He was an early kind of like, I suppose you could say, conspiracy theorist kind of guy. Do you know what I mean? He didn't have many friends. He liked his own sort of company, I'm guessing. And but him and Mark, their world views were kind of similar. So.
And then in 1979, August 12th, Mark married Karen.
Yep.
Mark and Karen Richards honeymooned at Marshall Dill's house. Richards' mentor in San Francisco during the honeymoon. Mark never left Karen's side.
Yeah, so Marshall Dill was homosexual, and he was Mark's history teacher from his university days. That's how close they were. And Mark would spend a lot of time with Dill. And as Russ Blum would say, more time with Dill than he was actually spending it with Karen. And Karen would say the same thing in her interviews.
But here he says that during the honeymoon, Mark never left Karen's side. But that's
true. Actually, let me correct that. In their early courting days, that was going on. Not so much when they got married, but in their early courting days. But yes, they were married August 12th, 1972. That's when we get to the next lot, where then in that marriage, when you read it out, you'll see that he's not saying that he was there for the honeymoon. So I'll let you read it.
Okay. So in 1979, Battle of Vesta, Mark states that he had a phone call from his father and was ordered to save the asteroid Vesta. He left Karen on their honeymoon in the middle of the night. Mark almost died in an ambush by the Trogs. He was reunited with Antimpasa, a Nordic alien with whom he fathered a child. Wow, he already cheated.
And you know what? That's when that.
Wait. Did he cheat after he like?
Yes.
Okay, before he went back from the honeymoon, like in that inner thing, he goes, "Like I did this, and now I'm going to get laid," and then he went back.
Well, it could have been. Look, this is a rough copy. It could have been, but he still had other alien life forms that he was making babies with, and that was behind Karen's back. So it's pretty bad, isn't it? Really?
Wow. 7 wives on different planets. I guess if you're going to have different wives, it's better to have them on different planets.
Well, that some were on planet, some were on planet Earth as well.
Trying to cross paths with one another.
All right. She had previously wiped Mark's mind clear. Okay. And then Naga observes Mark's love for Karen was only a small reflection of what he had with Antimpasa. Mark is wounded, but the alliance with humans, raptors, and other species defeats the odds to prevail.
There you go.
That is so wild.
It's impressive.
It is, right?
It is. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
1979, August, Mark was captain of the Valkyrie and the youngest UN officer and the youngest commander of a deep space fleet ship.
Yeah.
Is that even a real ship, Valkyrie, or is that just part of the folklore of all of this?
Well, none of it's true, so make up what you want.
Around any of this because you can't do it. You just can't do it.
All right, and then in 1979, the MI6 murdered Mark's wife, Titania, and Bart, their child. What planet is this on?
Scotland. This was in Scotland, in planet Earth. Yeah,
in Scotland. So he had another child in Scotland.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if I was Joanne, I'd be worried about MI6 when she goes and does the speaking things over there in Europe.
I think she's had some run-ins. I'm sure I think she talks about run-ins with Men in Black or Secret Service.
Yeah. Well.
Anyway.
And the date is given only as the 1970s, but presumably it is around 1979 because it helped trigger Mark wanting to resign. All right, and then 1979 fall, Mark commanded a squad to rescue women in pods at Dulce. The Dulce battle to retake the secret underground complex is successful thanks to Mark's battle leadership and skills. Mark was wounded. Wounded where? Does he say?
Well, he doesn't say. And there's a whole lore to the Dulce stuff, and we're just going to include that in the docuseries. That the lore and actually who created it as well. There is a creator behind all this, that is ongoing. Yeah.
All right, and then now we get to 1980. Mark establishes engineering constructors with Craig Andrews. It's an unlicensed construction company. True.
Yes, that's where he also stole his brother-in-law's Joe's construction license behind his back.
Okay, and then behind his back. Nice.
Yeah.
And then in 1981, the Antares Group. What is that?
I don't know. These are in his science fiction writings.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. 1981, engineering constructors dissolved and Craig Andrews left after poor workmanship for Tennessee. Mark's latest business check bounced. In 1982, July 16, Mark Richards was arrested and in jail until 12/2/83 bailout. In 1982, July 7th, Richard Baldwin murder takes place. Mark framed for a murder he did not commit, in quotation. In 1982, July 8th, Richard Baldwin's safe is seen in Mark's garage. that had not been there before. The pink slips to his classic cars were inside.
Let me just add to that as well with the safe. So it was Craig Andrews that came round to Mark's house. Crossy, Andrew, and Mark were there, and they said, he was like, whose safe is this? And they were like, oh, we just found it, kind of thing. And he's like, we're just drilling it out. So you drilled it out, Mark? Yep. Just to make sure there was nothing inside. So yeah, Craig Andrews was part of the witnesses that took part in the trial as well, just to show that that Mr. Baldwin's safe was there.
Crossy just found the safe on the side of the road. So what
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, or in Mark's interrogation. Yeah, he just found it driving down the road. So I guess he just picked it up with his bare hands,
Yeah.
And a 17-year-old kid threw it in the back of the truck and, off to Mark's house. It just.
Obviously, the safe was taken, Jeff. The safe was taken when they raided Mr. Baldwin's house after
I know that.
The murder. Yeah. I'm just saying, yeah.
No, I know that. And they also found the wheels to that safe in Mark's truck when he tried to deny he didn't.
There was wheels. There was the forensic link to the murder for Mark is all the stuff in the back of the truck. The stuff in Mark's garage was forensically linked. The duct tape, the coax cable, plastic,
everything.
Everything. What else? There's a number of forensic links. I'll get back to you just a second. Carry on, and I'll get the forensic links. Yeah.
Okay. In 1982, July 12th, Mark Richards made several purchases using the credit card of Richard Baldwin at Montgomery Ward's department stores in Richmond and Daly City. And
that's
the missing forensic link. Yes, he pawned Mr. Baldwin's guns, and obviously the shop owner had to take part in the trial because to say that yes, he came in with those guns. He spent on Mr. Baldwin's credit cards and got credit in Mr. Baldwin's name at a number of places.
Oh yeah, he went to
all those shops. All those people were brought in to testify. Yeah, he came for that credit.
Top of the Hill, Daly City. He went there to
Daly City. That's a classic one. And Joanne would say, well, those boys were always trading things back and forth. No, just
I would like to interject now. When I talked to Joanne. And I talked to her today too, messaged her. We messaged today. We didn't talk on the phone today. And I asked her what she thought about, Barbarian's, the retired DA that prosecuted this case, his comments on Kevin's video yesterday. And she said she didn't agree with anything he said, most of it. And I go, well, what was it that you did agree on? She goes, well, I just find that the hearsay, what he said about hearsay was very interesting. And then she told me, she goes, there is no evidence linking Mark to the scene of the crime. Okay, now this is for Joanne. We agree to disagree on all this, but okay, so say Joanne, what she's saying is true. We know it's not, but let's just pretend for a second here it's true. So Cross-End Hoover went over and murdered Richard Baldwin, brutally murdered him, while Mark was at his house with Andrew Campbell ransacking it. Or did Cross-End come back without Richard Baldwin and they're still doing the job, pouring the little piece of concrete at his house, and said, well, where's Richard Baldwin? Well, he's not here. Oh, let's ransack his house. All right. I mean, Joanne, get a grip. I'm sorry. But more importantly is that night he was positively ID'd at the marina there in San Rafael by the security guard. And he, a lot of people fish at night, and the harbor master's office is closed. So they got to pay their launch fees. They slipped the money through the door.
And that was Andrew, Mark, and Crossy just saying that.
Yeah, there is your evidence. And that is accessory to murder. And it's not even after the fact, because they're
buying the boat, Jeff, and buying the boat. They brought the boat together.
Yeah, but they're over there. They're over there ransacking his house. And Joanne says there's no evidence linking him to the crime scene. Well, so he's ransacking the house while Crossan's committing this horrible crime. I'm sorry. He is just as guilty of it. And it's not after the fact. It's part of the fact. That's why Mark was facing death row. So she can say he wasn't, there's no evidence linking him to the crime scene. The bottom line is there is evidence linking him to dumping the body.
Yeah.
A positive ID, not to mention, like Kevin says, the duct tape, the cable, the wrapped around the body and the outboard motor. But there was forensic evidence at the murder scene. Now,
there were fingerprints.
Was
Jeff,
a bloody palm print.
Jeff, the bloody palm print was Cross and Hoover's palm print at the garage, but there was also Mark Richards' fingerprints at the garage as well.
Yeah, but she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to see that.
Well,
Also,
she'll say that he was always around the garage, and that's true, right? But he was still there. And actually, I mean, Terry, you've heard, but thank you. That's great what you're saying there, Jeff. I don't want to, sorry to butt in it, but Terry, you were saying as well. No, actually, I'll say to you, Terry, sorry, that you've heard my interview, and you've all heard 17-year-old Cross in Hoover and the testimony of his 1982 police interview.
Oh, yeah,
right? It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah,
right? We'll watch that in a minute, right? And for anyone like Joanne to say that, doesn't mean nothing to me, okay, but that's not shared reality.
Yeah, it's I don't see how you can say that it doesn't mean anything to her, because I'm gonna play that part. That's very compelling. So
let's continue this. Let's continue because no, that's great what you guys have just said. What you've said there, Jeff, as well.
Yeah. All right. So we are at. Let me see. Where do we leave off at? We are Monkey Wards, right? All right. So now we're at 1982. Mark Richards made food purchases with the check of Richard Baldwin. In 1982, July 12th, Mark Richards made a purchase at Video Concepts in San Francisco, forging the signature of Richard Baldwin on Mr. Baldwin's personal check. They would only install in the home, so Mark, aka Richard Baldwin, stopped the transaction.
Yep.
In 1982, July 12th, Mark Richards made a purchase at Whole Point Marina in Richmond and forged the signature of Richard Baldwin on Mr. Baldwin's personal check.
Yep.
In 1982, July 13th, Baldwin's body found in San Francisco Bay. In 1982, during the week following the murder of Richard Baldwin, Richards instructed Cross and Hoover to drive Mr. Baldwin's Datsun station wagon to the East Bay, and he abandoned it in the vicinity of the Oakland train station.
Yeah.
In 1982, July 13th, Mark Richards attempted to make a credit purchase from Matthews TV and Daly City in the amount of $10,035. Mr. Richards used the name and California driver's license of Richard Baldwin to identify himself and filled out a credit application which displayed as his business address. The Classic Car Shop, 36 Front Street, San Rafael, California, phone number 415-456-5900. During the week that followed this transaction, Ted Lindquist determined that an employee from Matthews TV made 2 telephone calls to the Classic Car Shop at 456-5900 in an effort to discuss the transaction just described.
And that should be Detective Ted Lindquist. Sorry to say that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Detective Ted Lindquist. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
In 1982, July 16th, Mark Richards arrested for murder. Richards currently maintains he was off planet when the crime took place.
And that's now changed because in interview number 10, I think it was, he's now saying through Kerry Cassidy that he was having tea with his mum.
Yeah, no, he was having lunch with his parents.
Lunch. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
But
that's right.
But when that security guard ID'd him that night at the marina, he obviously wasn't having lunch with his parents now, was he?
Yeah, and in the end, in Karen's testimony in the court case, she did remember him coming back at 3:00 in the morning.
Oh yeah, she
Yeah.
remembered him going out that night because she was watching Heart to Heart, her favorite.
That's right.
show
Yes.
at the time.
Yes.
Oh,
That's right.
Heart to Heart. I remember that
Oh
series.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, Karen Bacon loved that show.
Yeah, she did.
And then on July, okay, so then 1982, Linda Lippa was the woman who dated
Linda Lipes.
Linda what?
Lipes, sorry, Lipes.
Oh, Linda Lipes was the woman who dated Francois Ragocrazi, aka Mark Richards, while he was out on bail. Francois, he became Francois. That's interesting.
Well, he's like 007, you know.
Hi, I'm Francois. All right. While he was out on bail, she called. My kitty's getting active here. She called Detective to tell him Mark Richards introduced himself as Belizean ambassador. Oh my God. And he was driving around with a gun in the glove compartment. He denied owning the glove, saying it was his mother's.
Yes, and they put him. This was the only time that Mark went on the stand, and he admitted to lying to the woman that he was Francois, and he had used it as a cover because his face was out there. But it was Linda who recognized his face on the newspaper. Then she became suspicious of who she was seeing at the time.
Well,
And,
it was everywhere. Everybody recognized his face at that point.
Yeah.
It was everywhere.
Yeah.
I've got a howling kitty now.
I can hear it.
He's like, "Oh, come on, baby. It's okay." All right. In 1983, this is when he wants to go out. He wants to look out the window and everything. In 1983, October 5th, Mark and Karen divorced.
Oh, hang on. 82 is an important one.
Oh, wait,
this came up.
1982. Okay,
Yeah.
1982, Mark.
Now, I'll just say this. This came up in the interview number 10. Interview number 11 is coming out soon. We've got interview number 11 coming out soon in Kerry Cassidy, and apparently it's going to be amazing.
Well,
But
they
anyway,
all
interview
are.
number 10.
I mean, just look at this little timeline.
Yeah.
I
Interview
mean,
number 10. So, sorry, Terry, I didn't mean to pardon.
Okay, that's fine. In 1982, Mark claims that his wife Karen had spent over $500,000 on furniture before the crime. He contends that he had more than one construction company and ran several crews at the same time. Yes, that is important, Kevin.
He was a failing because if you look at the court testimony which we've got, he was completely failing in everything. He had 2 mortgages on his house that Karen didn't even know about.
Oh yeah, he ran her debt way up. But he's an
He was going to get into drug dealing, wasn't he, Jeff? Do you remember?
Well, he already was. They already were.
Actually, yes, he was. Yes, you're right. He was by this time.
His house. They pulled a garbage bag of weed that was grown indoors. We talked to that guy across the street.
Shall we just say this, that at the time when I left Jeff after we'd done some filming back in the day, I had purchased so much court testimony, and you were going through it, wasn't you? When I'd got back to the UK, because there was just so much. I mean, it was a massive pile, wasn't it? And,
I had about 3,000 pages, and I went through just about all of it. But they all burned up in that Paradise Fire.
Yeah.
But I read a lot of it, and some of it I had to read twice.
Right.
And now he was an entrepreneur. He drove up so much debt. He was just swimming in debt.
Yeah.
I don't know if that counts for good cardio or not, but he came up with this great plan, to get a little money. This whole thing was so senseless, so tragic. And it was a little garbage bag full of weed that Baldwin was growing inside his garage. Apparently that was one of his side ventures. And there was some guns in the safe. And then, like what you guys have talked about, some credit cards and stuff. It was basically nothing.
And I'll just say this in regards to the growing marijuana. I mean, there's some things, Jeff, I've just got to get reconfirmed again as well. So I'm going to sit here and say I'm not too sure about that, because I've got to go and get all that paperwork again, some of that stuff.
Well, I read that.
Okay.
The paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure if they never would have found Baldwin's body and found Mark Richards,
So let me.
He's
I'm
gonna
gonna
liquidate
Right, right.
stores in his shop too.
I have a question. Okay, so was Richard Baldwin growing the marijuana, and then they took the marijuana, and they were gonna, and then Mark Richards started selling it.
That was
Selling
just part of the gig that they got after they murdered him.
Okay.
Again,
You know,
I'll
had his
stand here and say
body
I'm
got
not sure. I'm not sure about that.
Kevin's saying he's not sure though, totally.
I am. I read it. I read it in the documents. I read where Joanne, it's right there in the police documents, the investigation, when, what's his name? Pete Neal?
Yes, Pete Neal, I think. Yes.
Yeah, when he went over there because Richards owed him money and the safe was there. That's when Karen Bacon said, "Oh, I guess we'll be selling some pot now too." And he had given her a necklace that I think he might have bought with those credit cards.
He did. Yeah.
And he gave Pete Neal a gun because he didn't have any money to pay him what he owed.
One of Baldwin's guns, again, which traced him back to the murder.
Yeah, he said, "Do not register this, but this is a nice gun."
We've interviewed Pete Neal. We've got his interview.
Yeah. Well, what he did is he turned it into the cops. They ran the serial numbers and it went right to Richard Baldwin.
Yeah.
He's the one that got them hot on their trail, but it wasn't like they weren't far behind.
Right.
You know, this is the Keystone Cops basically doing this job. Just so tragic.
Yeah. 1983, October 5th, Mark and Karen divorce. 1984, Mark, 7/20/84, convicted of first-degree murder and 2 special circumstances and jailed. 4/9/84. 1984, July 20th, Mark's appeal was filed. Mark was sentenced this day to life without parole with 2 special circumstances.
Yes.
1990, Imperial Marin copywritten. 1992, Pacific Area Communication was formed. New Albion.
His wife. This is all by his wife now. So this is when Joanne. Actually, these dates might be a bit off, but I think Pacific Area Communications was formed in '97, and that's just before Imperial Marin was Imperial Marin was copyrighted then by Mark. Do you know what? These dates might be off. I'm sorry about this. But these are events that happened. Let me just say that.
Okay. St. Louis records fire. Joanne states she met.
St. Louis fire. That was the fire at the personnel records center for all the personnel, whatever you served in, right? And Joanne is basically saying that his military records were lost in the fire. But we spoke to the personnel center, which is going to be in the docuseries, and no, none of those records were lost.
Okay. And then in 1996, Joanne states that she met Mark on video with Carrie Cassidy. Okay, wait, let me ask about this because hasn't there never been a video with Carrie Cassidy at all? Like
in the sense of
Well, I mean, I thought that she had to go into the she would go into the prison, talk to him, and
there is one that's out there. You're not allowed to take anything recording instruments into the prison with California. You're not allowed to. But yes, there's one interview one or two. Where they're outside. All the rest, she does her total she did a total recall in the first few, or at least number one, in her car, and all the other total recalls are at her home. Now that does say to you, as Jeff's always said, did she ever go to the prison in the other?
I think she did in the first one, because I've been to that prison many.
Yeah, the first one I would agree with, but what about the rest? We don't know. There's no.
I don't think that she was panhandling money. She would always say, "Yeah, I need money to." To go interview Mark Richards, my number one whistleblower again. And obviously people would donate to her. But in that first one, she did some of the interview in her rental car driving back to the airport. And I knew right where she was at just about every time because I grew up around there.
Yeah.
And she was up in Vacaville. But I've been in that prison so many times because I had a friend that used to be there.
Right.
And, yeah, they were there. They were there in Vacaville.
But the other interviews, did she go? I mean, you've always felt that she never went to the other interviews.
I don't think she went to a lot of the ones she said she did. Before, she would always put a thumbnail with like the San Francisco bridge where it goes through the tunnel there or whatever.
Oh,
you
yes.
know, on the other side, she'd always put a picture of the Bay Area there.
Yeah.
Like she landed at the airport and then went.
But no video.
She was sure panhandling hard for that money and
to go to Vacaville.
Yes.
Yeah, it's such a big drive from the.
And I
from
think
Oh, it's
she
huge.
went,
Yeah,
I think she went. Kevin, I think she went that time when I called her out about.
I'm being sarcastic.
Oh yes. That was definitely. I mean, look, she may have gone for all of them, right? I'm just, but who do you? It's difficult to know what to believe. But yes, I think you're right there.
Created this whistleblower that no one can question. Oh, Mark said this. Mark said that. And the way she's going on, this guy's in prison has access to better information than we do on the outside.
Well, don't forget she's a publishing company, so she can send stuff and books and magazines into him and stuff legally. And also,
she just used him to create new material that no one else was covering.
This is what I wanted to say.
How this industry operates.
Yeah, well, as well, that in any of the interviews that she's done on his behalf, to do a total recall, he never addressed himself. Or there's no missions. He never talks about his missions, which is kind of weird. I don't know. I've noticed that. I don't know what that means, but it's almost like he, I think when he writes to Kerry or Joanne, I don't think he even calls himself captain on the letters, because he knows that one day, if he does get the commuter sentence, that there's no proof out there that he ever did any of this. It's all his mouthpiece, Joanne Richards.
Well, I think Kerry adds a lot to the stories. I mean, I remember, he says that Robin Williams' death was an Illuminati hit. She would just say the greatest, worst things.
Okay, wait. Go back.
Mark Richards said this. Mark Richards.
Okay, wait. Robin Williams' dad was an Illuminati hit.
Yeah, Robin Williams was an Illuminati hit.
Robin Williams.
And she claims that, Mark Richards knew him because
Karen did. Karen Richards knew him. She did.
Okay.
Karen.
Yeah.
Who's Karen?
Karen. Well,
his sister,
Mark's ex-wife. Mark's
ex-wife.
Karen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, she knew Robin Williams.
She knew it. See, it's always someone else that knew him, not him.
Yeah, but you can never ever vet it or go to the source. And big deal if she knew him anyways. Why does she say such a brutal?
Well, no. The reason she admitted she said that is because it was her that knew him, not Mark. Mark saying it wasn't.
You're saying, yeah. Robin Williams had a very bad disease that was affecting his brain. He was losing his memory and everything else.
Yeah, that's
Let's continue. Let's continue on this timeline.
Oh, and
that's a whole nother.
That's how low and faceless Carrie Cassidy is. She can say anything she wants and say Mark Richards said that.
Okay,
True.
That's why I hated him.
So we're at the Joanne states she met Mark on video. Okay, 1997. Ellis dies. February 12th. Ellis is murdered.
Yeah, he wasn't murdered. I've got his death certificate. He wasn't murdered. They're saying he was murdered. But let's just also say this as well. Soon as mum and dad were dead, that's the year that Joanne starts her journey on going to conferences to look at what they're saying at other UFO conferences. And when she reports back to Mark, then I think he realized that what they're not saying is about these dinosaurs, which he came up with. So.
All right, and then in 1997, Joanne's mom dies. And then in 1997, Joanne starts writing to Mark.
I should say this, that obviously Joanne was looking after his mom, and she actually placed her in Galt in the end, which we've got footage of, and it wasn't the nicest place, and she was suffering from dementia at the time, so she became her I'm going to get the word wrong here, but it was the custodia, like an attorney. She became, and I'm using all the wrong words here because I can't remember what it was.
Stewardship.
Power of attorney. She had power of attorney. Sorry, that's it.
Okay.
Sorry.
She got power of attorney. And then didn't she somehow get the house too?
Well,
because she married
in-
Mark.
in-
It's
yeah.
Mark's house. She's married to Mark.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay.
What happened was in Mark's court trial, there was a young girl that was his neighbor. She was very young, really young, and she was placed on the trust along with Mark for the reason that if ever anyone came along and that was that caused trouble, in between Mark, that there was someone there to represent Mark if Lois wasn't there. So Beth McDermott's on the trust. She's going to get part of the estate, and Joanne Richards is, and Mark as well. I've spoken to Beth McDermott.
Okay. And then we have, all right, so Joanne starts writing to Mark in 1997, September. Joanne meets Mark. In 1998, Joanne creates the Future of Monte Cristo Corporation in Lone, California.
No, I own California. Now, explain this to me, Kevin. She creates the Future of Monte Cristo in Ione, California. What's that?
Oh, is this? I thought it was in Lone.
That is an LLC corporation, and actually the name's got a meaning behind it. I think it means something like someone that's had injustice done towards him.
Well, let me tell you about Ione, California.
Oh, that's Ione. I thought that was an L.
That is where Mule Creek Prison is.
That's where he was at the time. That's where he was at the time. She actually set up a shop there. She set up a shop there, selling his merchandise.
So he was up there at Mule Creek too for a while.
Yeah.
Well,
she actually before in that time of meeting Mark, before she met him, she was meeting new friends in prison. As soon as she met him, she became an advocate for prison rights, and we've actually got her on an old prison radio talk show.
Well, I mean, that prison is basically PC. I know Suge Knight was there, but that's beside the point. My buddy got moved there, and they have J-Cats, which are prisoners on psych meds. They got dirty cops there. They got child molesters there. They got gangland dropouts. It's basically PC. So he was probably there on medication, because that's why they sent my buddy there.
Interesting. Well, we've never got his psych evaluation. We can't get access to it.
But the fact that he went to Ione tells me a lot. This is all new to me. I just noticed that, and I thought,
that's an interesting point.
Yeah, no, I've been to that prison as many times.
Well, hang on. There's a hospital next to Vacaville for the people that suffer from that, and he always seemed to hate it. He always seemed to hate it when you got them confused.
No, that's the medical facility.
Oh, the medical. I'm sorry.
But
don't they deal with mental health? Don't they deal with mental health?
But Ione, all that is there is gangland dropouts. These are gang members that snitch. They got a contract on them, and dirty cops, and child molesters. And the J-Cats, those are the prisoners on medication.
I'm going to say this. I think at Vacaville there is I'm going to call it a nut ward, right?
There is.
Yeah.
There are 2 prisons there.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Was he ever in that? I doubt he was, but I'm just saying.
Well, my friend never.
Stay away from Ione, California.
I think that's a message.
Okay, it's not a vacation spot.
Let's move it on. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, 1999, Imperial Marin was published.
Yeah, this is part one of 7 volumes that was confiscated at his home during the trial. Which the other 7 volumes talk about the succession of California, of Marin County. Joanne's never published those other volumes, whether she's even got them. But volume 1 was published. I'm sure it was a big seller.
Didn't Mark originally start writing that, as Joanne says, for his kids and his grandkids?
No. Well, he was maybe he rewrote it. Actually, there were other books.
That's what
No. There was other books that he was right. There was Tiffany and the Lowlifes. There was actually other books he did on snake bites and other things. It's really weird.
Tiffany and the Lowlifes. I kind of like that title. Tiffany and the Lowlifes. It's like a series. All right. Or a band, right?
Right.
Okay, 2002. Julie Joanne marries Mark
July.
July. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's me. 2002, July, Joanne marries Mark at Salinas Valley Prison.
Yeah.
All right. And then in 2003, Mark has Joe go to first UFO conference, Joanne.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
after the honeymoon.
So this has been going on for 20 years. 2003, June 24th,
Yes, it's a long time.
started www. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, this has been, it's a long time, isn't it? Yeah.
So Joanne already, because I'm looking at the timeline here. So we have Joanne's out there at the UFO conferences in 2003. And then 2004, Lois dies January 15th. Then Joanne sets up a first vendor.
After she died, then Mark starts doing these fantasy tales.
Okay. And then,
all that.
And then it isn't until 2013 that Carrie Cassidy comes into the picture. So
That's
they
right.
were peddling this for a good.
Yes, and it was Laura Fenton from MUFON at a conference that introduced Joe to Carrie Cassidy. But it was actually the guy that funded this documentary, Julian Sol, who was the guy that actually introduced Kerry to Mark Richards, because he was seeing Mark Richards in prison at the time. He brought into the story.
Okay. And then 2013, 11/19 Total Recall begins. Project Camelot interviews Mark for the first time. Mark Richards Total Recall with transcript. Okay, there's a whole transcript there. 2015, Joanne begins her news includes broadcast on Project Camelot. Oh, see, I didn't know that they were actually going to these conferences for that long.
Oh yeah. It was all, but like I say, Mark, as soon as Lois says, look, Mark got her to go to the conferences to see, I believe, where the gap was in the market.
Well, Julian went to Sacramento and said that he met Carrie there, and that he was going to visit Mark Richards. He says he's the one that told her about it.
That's right. That's right.
But you'll hear Carrie Cassidy in that recorded call on, that you have on your video yesterday, saying, "Oh yeah, she knew all about this before she ever started
She may have done, right? But Julian was the one that put the dangled the carrot there.
No, but she said she knew about this case, but long before she ever.
She may have done. She may have done. I mean, that's possible.
She went going to college in Sonoma. Then everybody around the Bay Area knew about this case.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It gets beat to death.
2019, July 1st marks KLW radio interview.
I'll just say this. He talks about being draft number 11 on that interview, and I've actually got the documentation now to say that he would have been draft number 53, I believe it was. I can't remember what it says on the documentation. I've given those links to Joanne, but she doesn't want to know about those links. She doesn't want to look at that to say it's even true. He lied.
2019, November 21st, Mark awarded the VIP Veterans in Prison Certificate of Recognition.
Yeah, and I CC'd Joanne into the conversation with the California State Assembly, a guy that I was speaking to there about these certificates, and he said that they give them out like candy. They're not vetted at all. And in that conversation thread, again, Joanne didn't want to hear it, didn't want to know nothing about it, and continues to say that certificate is real. On the certificate, it says Mark Richards, not even Captain Mark Richards. It doesn't verify anything.
It's a morale booster for the inmates, is what it is.
He is now commander of the Veterans Associate, and we're in talks with the Veterans Associate. That's the external program to the prison, and just to find out how they do vet people, because I don't believe that he was vetted at all.
And then in 2020, Joanne published Midlife Magic, and that's her own book, right?
Yeah, about her 7 marriages, including one to Mark. But wasn't it interesting the other day in the comments thread on the video I just put out, where she actually put this statement, and Jeff just say this to me just off air, that this is the only time that she's now sort of stating that she may not believe Mark. She puts on there, P.S., this is Joanne, it should be noted that regardless of whether people believe Mark's info or not, I have had my own experiences with the paranormal, elementals, intuition, magical protection, and UFO sightings. This is what I've been focusing on in my recent podcast interviews, i.e. not Mark Richards. This is what several chapters in my book are about. And no, Mark does not have a cell phone. I believe he does. So she's moving. She's slowly distancing herself, slowly,
Into her
because
own thing.
yes, because she's built a platform up, even though it's not true, but she's
Yeah,
got something.
groundwork. Laying the groundwork.
Well, she laid a lot of groundwork. I mean, she got this far with the whole narrative, and now there's other people talking about it, and there's a whole space program based on with him included in it, and
she became the public speaker that she always wanted to be.
Yeah.
I'm
And she got the house.
I'm not going to say anything
Stability.
bad about her because, like
No.
I say, we're both civil to each other on the phone. I admire the fact that she stands behind her husband no matter what, and that's her right. You know, her opinion is her opinion. My opinion is my opinion. We're not going to change each other's mind. The bottom line is he is forensically linked to the murder, just in the boat marina alone. You know, in California, that's just as guilty as being the one that pulled the trigger.
Yes.
All right, I have
Yes.
a question, Kevin, about what happened with the relationship between Mark Richards and Carrie Cassidy. There's been has there been a split?
Yes, there has a little bit, but maybe it's not as bad as we think. But because she's a Trump supporter and still believes that Trump's in power in the background, obviously Mark is not that type of supporter at all, nor is Joanne. So there's been that distancing a little bit. But I think with the next interview coming out, maybe she's called for help at a time in need when I'm getting closer to this completion, we're still a way off. I don't want to say when this is going to be ready right now, but because it's every day right now. Okay. It's been that way for a while. But yes, there has been that split due to the political disagreements.
Okay. And I want to play there's a portion of your interview that I'd like to play.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. You want to stick around and make comments on that too?
I'd like to.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So let me pull that up, and I'm going to start it about the 48 mark.
Yep.
In the video, and let it go in that one little stream up into the district attorney speaking, because I think that is okay. So, and then your guests that you have had on, do you want to give a little plug for them?
Yeah, they were from a podcast called Skeptic Psychic, and that was Richard and Kimber, their brother and sister. And they had, like I said earlier on in this interview, had just interviewed Joanne not too long ago, and they kindly agreed to hear my side of the different side of the story. And that's my goal right now, is getting myself on other shows that Joanne's been on to give the opposing opinion.
What I like about this particular show is this part. You really describe everything really well. Great overview. And so that's really, again, why I want to play it. And then also the Cross and Hoover confession.
Oh, yes, please. Yeah, that's wonderful. Crazy.
Okay, so let me make sure I just did this
And
right.
I just want to say, I've interviewed Cross and Hoover for many, many months. He's on the docu-series. I do like Crossy. He has gone through a lot of change. You know, he's 17 in this clip. This is not the Crossy we know right now. And, yeah.
Okay.
I'll let it speak for itself.
Make sure we're all included.
Well, that wise man did say that.
All right.
But then when you've got factual court documentation, when you've re-interviewed all the people involved in the crime. So let me just set this up and I'll go back to that. That's a good point. So I'm going to miss bits out here because this is not the docu-series. This is just me, off the top of my head, right? So Mark Richards in 1982 influenced a 17-year-old called Crossin Hoover and Andrew Campbell to take part in the murder of his friend Richard Baldwin. Okay, Mark and Richard were good friends. Mr. Baldwin had been at Mark's wedding. They kicked around, as friends. They knew each other, right? I mean, they were. I mean, Mr. Baldwin, I wouldn't say had a best friend, but Mark was a friend. Okay, and Mark was running a construction business. Now, Kerry and Joanne will say the construction business was successful. He had money tucked away and all that kind of stuff, because she mentioned it on your show, right? No, it was not successful at all. We've interviewed Mark's brother-in-law, Joe. Joe has stated, and it's his testimony, and it's the same testimony in the court case, right? That obviously Mark stole Joe's contracting license, and Joe would get phone calls at some point in time to say, you've done a terrible job. Whatever the issue was with the job, they wanted their money back. So he actually stole his brother's contracting license. Mark Richards was involved in a car insurance fraud involving reporting the theft of lost cars back in the, I want to say 1973. And if I'm off with years here, we're creating a master timeline, because Joanne's never seen the master timeline of what Mark says to compare to what really happened, in reality. And at the time of that court case, his lawyer was a guy called Carl Shapiro. Carl Shapiro would later be his lawyer in 1982 for his murder case, along with another lawyer as well. So Carl Shapiro got him off that case, the charges. But we actually met and traced down Mike Peck, which was someone who did do some time for that insurance fraud, and he was Mark's good friend, and he was part of that insurance ring. There are other people that we're going to try to speak to for that insurance ring, but Mike's testimony was pretty damning, to be honest. I mean, he felt that Mark should have gone down. He took the hit for it, and he trusted Mark that he wasn't going to, rat on him, basically, and he did, which this happens all the time. But this is the early career of Mark as well. And Mark was always made to feel very special by his mother. Mark was someone who, he was. His friends talk about him in the interviews that we've done. That Mark was the odd one out, in a sense, the goofy one, a little bit as well. But there's more to it than that, right? I'm just going to paraphrase here, right? So, in 1982, he's got a failing contracting business. He's taken out 2 mortgages against his home. People saw the degradation of Mark mentally. People that knew him back in the day, even his neighbors that have been interviewed by us, not by us, shall I say, we've got some third-party content, because there was back in the day, maybe 10, 15 years ago, there was a student project where these students covered the murder case, because they were family members knew Richard Baldwin back in the day, and for their film project at I think it was high school, they actually interviewed some of the legacy people in this case that are no longer with us, and they've signed over that footage, which is wonderful. And you hear the next door neighbor saying, look, we saw the mental degradation of Mark Richards at this time. He was not acting right. Many people have said that to us in the interviews that we've done with them. We've done over 23 people, interviewed over 23 people. Including Russ Blum, who was his friend back in the day, who in 1977 they set up to film, to make a film. Mark, Joanne talks about Mark being a filmmaker. It was Russ Blum who was the filmmaker. Russ Blum was the filmmaker, not Mark Richards, right? And his interviews are extensive, and he goes into so much detail about the projects, including something called Future School, which they set up as well. We've actually got the incorporated articles for the non-for-profit Future School that they set up. It shows Mark witnessing his signature, in front of the whoever this is, the account, the notary, I guess it is. And, we've got so many ways to show that he was on planet, right? He was not off planet. Absolutely not. And, Mark's ex-wife Karen, which Joanne will say, you cannot trust these people. They knew nothing about his time in the secret space program. Well, that's just tell me that's just give me something, say something to me that's how can that be shared reality that you don't know what your husband's doing? She knew what her husband was doing.
Like I said, even when wives, they know that their husband is on board ship or in the military. They just, because of the classifications, they don't know where their husband. my husband's in the military. Okay, well,
Yeah. Well, what we've got here as well is obviously he's saying that he was in the military, and sorry if I get some of this wrong, but at the age of 13. Now, what would you say to that? Age 13 in the military. Is there, as you maybe...
There's only one recorded person during World War II being age 13. Well, there's Civil War. There's actually a little boy who was 8.
I just want to make a comment on those pants. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, and look at his hairstyle.
No, yes,
being in the,
okay.
Yeah. Look at his hairstyle for being in the military as well.
I gotta agree with what
Right.
EA said. His mom made him the monster he is. It looks like she dressed.
Well, I think that he may have been fencing that day. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
We hope.
Well, that's also probably part of that, the Renaissance.
The Renaissance fair.
The Renaissance LARPing.
That's the only bit of proof that they've sent. So they've given us so far. I put the word fake on there because I'm not going to have that as real. But that's supposed to be part of his DD 214, but it's just not. Oh, and let me just say this as well, right? Joanne claims that she's got some classified documentation of Mark's, which she's got from Mark because I guess it's declassified, and she's got portions of his DD 214 more than this. If she's got that, she's letting him rot in prison.
Yeah, that's true.
All
Yeah,
right.
where was he at when he went through all this?
It's pretty Vietnam consultant at age 16. Teen with an attitude.
Oh,
Okay,
it's impressive. His whole life, his whole bio's impressive. It's such a
Oh.
shame he's been in prison for 40 some odd years. This guy, there's nothing he couldn't have done.
I know.
He'd have been
Basically
the first 6-star general, huh?
Right.
In every branch of the military.
it's kind of a little bit of an odd thing. I mean, the little 8-year-old was a drummer boy. The 15-year-old boy had lied on his paperwork saying, "Yes, I'm 18 years old." So.
Well, we're also going to put some of Mark's timeline on the screen as well. We'll share that, and maybe we can go into some sort of order. But just to talk about what this is about, in its context, because there's so much to this. In 1982, Cross and Hoover was hired by Mark. 17-year-old Crossy was hired by Mark to work on his contracting company to do the jobs they were doing, and so was Andrew Campbell. Previously to Andrew Campbell, there was a guy called Willie Robes, and Willie Robes was the first person that was asked by Mark to murder his friend Richard Baldwin. Willie didn't want nothing to do with it, and unfortunately, he hired, or shall I say, introduced Cross and Hoover to Mark, because he knew that, he just wanted out of Pendragon, right? Which was the cult that Mark had set up, and we'll get into Pendragon in just a moment. And Willie actually joined the Navy at the time, and he got out that way. Now, Cross and Hoover actually went down with Willie to join the Navy, I believe, and he wasn't allowed to join because he didn't pass the test at the time, whatever practical, theoretical test it was. Do you know what I mean? He just was. He wasn't. He had learning difficulties. Crossy did. What Mark actually did was play on Cross's weaknesses, how he hated faggots, as he called them, pedophiles, and scum of the earth. He would get into Cross's mind, and because I've interviewed Crossy for 3 months, who's Mark's crime partner now, you would call it. He's in an opposing prison. He got 25 to life, his sentence was, and he's still not got out now because I don't feel he's been ready, but he might be getting there, right? And in that 3-month testimony over recorded lines, his testimony never changed from the day that he was arrested at 17 in 1982. So what happened was there were Pendragon meetings, and we believe that these meetings were ways to just make sure that he got the most susceptible, kids that would actually, maybe be ones that he can manipulate. And it wasn't so much Andrew, it was Crossy that was the real one that was able to be manipulated. And on July 6, 1982, Mark was doing a job at Mr. Baldwin's house. And there was a chap there called Tom Mills, who was with his stepchild at the time. and Tom Mills placed Crossin Hoover, Andrew Campbell at the Mr. Baldwin's apartment. That all came out in court. And skipping through a few things here, right, which will come out in the docuseries, or maybe we'll talk about. They went for lunch, and it was placed upon the two boys then that this is it. This is the day. We're doing this after lunch. Dick is going to die. Dick is a pedophile, Dick is, well, he had actually, said a lot of bad things about Dick leading up to the murder, just to get, to coax them in, and then the deal was made that they would be paid for the deed. He would split the assets of Mr. Baldwin with the boys, and they would get the guns that they needed to start their cult time. He was planning to take over Marin County. Now, Joanne denies all that, and of course Mark denies it, but in the 1982 court trial, where over 21,000 pieces of evidence plus were put into the trial, maybe not all that they collected that amount plus, but that there was maybe not all that amount that actually was shown to the jurors, because there was just so much, right? That was part of the plan, but obviously that plan was just a load of nonsense, because it was really just to get his to get rid of Dick. And whether Dick had, and I called Richard Baldwin Dick because that was his name at the time, that's short, whether Dick was had pissed Mark off to the point where you don't piss him off, you're dead if you get to that level. Do you know what I mean? Mark's so vindictive that whatever argument that they had, he was dead, right? But on the front of it, he's having a great time pretending to do his work on the Dick's property on that day. So when they get back from lunch, Tom was leaving. Then it was the three of them, and they got Mr. Baldwin to take them down to Mr. Baldwin's classic car restoration shop by Crossy asking to want to see some of Mr. Baldwin's classic cars. Okay, so there's anything just from that point that you want to ask, please do.
All right. My question was that, we're talking about this big cult, which you said was the Pendragon. Whenever I think of Pendragon, I think of Uther, the father of Arthur, the king of the Britons. I mean, even King Arthur did not consider himself a Pendragon. It was his father's name, but he was up until he became king, he rarely used the name Pendragon. It was usually Arthur, of Britain, that sort of thing. It was later historians that actually compared him to the.
Well, just to let you know, Mark was. We're going to get into Pendragon in the docuseries, but Mark was obsessed with Camelot, King Arthur. He was obsessed with it, and was before she went to Oregon. The neighbors showed us some of Mark's old castles. One was in their house, and then one we could see from a distance because the guy knew where it was in the garden, just in the back of the garden, so he pointed to it.
These are the castles that you mentioned earlier, correct?
That's
Kevin?
Right. That's staring into Mark's garden there from the next door neighbors. So those castles have been there since Mark's childhood.
Yeah, and I mentioned him too. And when I was talking to Joanne yesterday, I go, he was probably a regular at the Renaissance Festival because of seeing that.
Yeah.
And she go, yeah, he loved that. There's nothing wrong with that. That place is very popular. They have it once a year. I think it goes on about a week or two.
But that just goes to show how much he was into it. I mean,
yeah.
The whole King Arthur. Yeah.
It was crazy to see, and he had a room that his mum had made as well, called Tiny Town, which was a sort of, I guess like a Camelot themed room. Do you know what I mean? So this was something that he was obsessed with. He loved, the whole Camelot thing, which is kind of, strange.
Well, I've met several people who claimed themselves to be Merlin.
Oh, don't they all? Right?
Yes.
We're all Merlin. Yeah, we're all, and he certainly thought so as well. I mean, this is well, I'll just show you. This is volume 1 of one of the books he was writing at the time. There was 7 volumes of this that the police took away. This is Imperial Mirroring book 1, which Joanne's published. And there was much more than that. And in the other volumes, it talked about the takeover of Marin County. It just didn't say it in here. Whether she releases the other 7 books, I doubt it. I mean, I'm not sure how much of a bestseller the first was, right?
Now, the other awesome question I would possibly ask, and now it's just because Joanne did bring it up, the ET side of this murder story, I mean, that is one of the most compelling things about that, the fact of, oh, yeah, well, he was actually doing this. Oh, wait a minute. He was doing this all because he had the top secret clearance and he was off doing space things.
Yep. Well, and Andrew's testimony and many other testimonies, he was there. He was there. What Joanne's been told by Mark is that, Andrew's a CIA, or maybe she would term it New World Order, has New World Order connections in the family. So does Crossy. I mean, what fucking nonsense, right? Excuse my French. I know this is supposed to be PG, but when you meet these people, New World what? That's what they would say. It took ages to track Andrew down. Even to this day, he's affected by what he did. When people find out locally what he did, or friends find out, somehow, it just destroys the life that he's built up. He got away with it, with giving state testimony. So they take Mr. Baldwin. So Andrew stays at the house. His orders are to ransack the house. Crossy and Mark head in the truck of, I guess, Mark's truck maybe, to the garage. And then the murder takes place there with Mark standing in the corner, or just, no, let's just say 6 foot away, giving the signal to Crossy. And then Crossy attacks him with a baseball bat. Baldwin's last mumbling words, were, why are you having this done, Mark? Why? And then obviously Crossy was handed a screwdriver by Mark, and then Crossy stabbed him to death numerous times. And that was the sad, tragic ending of Mr. Baldwin. And the pain that he must have gone through with those stabbing and the bloody bat and everything else that Crossy don't remember, because he was just out of his bloody mind when he was doing it, right? And that when they came back, so they wrapped the body up there, and they came back and to the house, and Andrew came to the front door, something like that, and and they said, "Is it done?" And they could, and just Mark said it was bloody disgusting, and God knows what state they were in blood-wise, but they cleaned a lot of it off. But I'm sure there's splatter on them. Crossy lost the plot at that point of the house. He's just on a bike, just riding outside, just like a child, because he's separating reality at that point. So Mark is shown by Andrew everything that they found at the house, including marijuana, guns of Mr. Baldwin, and cash. Then that day they go and buy a boat. Mark is there. That's one of the witnesses, is the boat buyer. Mark, Andrew, and Crossy are there buying the boat. That night they take, or that even late evening, they take the boat to the garage, lower Mr. Baldwin's body on the boat. Then they go to the marina. At the marina, the security guard identifies them all, because the security guard moment. And at that moment, I think that had something gone wrong, that man would have lost his life as well. We've just been another one added to the boat, right? But he lets them proceed, and they put some money through the door, which was money to be given to have the boat there. Say that they're going to go out fishing, and they then try to dispose of the body. When they first tried to dispose of the body, they couldn't get it to sink. Eventually, they tied an outboard motor to the body, but as the retired deputy Edward Barbarian has said, the chain was too long, And as the tides changed and as the gases in the body expanded, eventually a week later or somewhere around that time, the body floated up. So for a Navy captain to make such a trash job, a killer, a trash job of disposing of the body, it doesn't make any sense. It's not true. And at the time when they were disposing of the body, Andrew and Mark in the end didn't want nothing to do with it when they were banging the body with the oars and stuff to try to get it to go down. It was Crossing then that said, I'm going to take care of this. You guys don't want to do it they didn't want to do it really because it was so grotesque, you know what I mean? That Crossy took care of it in the end. And I guess they gave him some ideas with an outboard motor, but it wasn't, to them, it was a detriment because if the body had not floated up, obviously, it would have been more difficult to have, for the court to have placed them where they did with the murder. So there's many factors that place them at the murder. Another factor was on the day that they were arrested, Mark, Andrew, and Campbell knew that the body had popped up, and Crossy just felt intuitively that this is it, they're done, right? He told me on the phone he could just feel it, right? And something was going to happen that day. So they had a lot of Mr. Baldwin's property and items from the murder at the house. The duct tape that they wrapped the body up with, tied the body up with, coaxial cable, all able to be linked, because of properties of the duct tape as well. It was all forensically linked, right? And that was part of the damning evidence as well, was obviously, as they're pulling out of the driveway, this is like a week later, with the boat behind them, and they go, in the truck, maybe the boat was behind them, right? And they go into the dump to get rid of Baldwin's safe, pink slips, because obviously they took the safe as well, Baldwin's safe and everything else. And of course, Mark took no responsibility, said that Crossy just brought it to the house. Do you know what I mean? Of course he never. And actually it was Mark that drilled the safe, and it was Keith Andrews that confirmed that in the court testimony, because he was there when they had just drilled it, and it was Mark said that we had just drilled it, of course. So that also, connection with the items in the back of the car was another connection to tie it all down, right? And on top of that, then Mark had taken Mr. Baldwin's credit card and cards and opened up credit accounts to various different establishments across the San Francisco Bay Area, like TVs, hi-fis and stuff. And in some shops he went to take out credit, but they were going to install it, so he had to say no. And those people were brought into the court case as well, because that identified that they, at least Andrew and Andrew and Mark were present, at the buying of that as well. Mark's police interrogation, one of the only interrogations he had in 1982, the day of being captured, the day of actually, a funny story of him being captured is that he actually leapt out the car as they were being chased by the cops. And Crossy then had to grab the steering wheel. It's like a film, do you know what I mean? To be able to drive the car, and then pulled over. But yes, in his 1982 police interview, he was scared. He was asking for the cops not to leave. He changed his story. He admitted that he in the end that he knew that these boys had done something. Of course, Cross is in the other room singing like a bloody bird, telling them that he murdered him. And because I've got the original 1982 police tapes of Crossy at that 17-year-old crying his eyes out, telling them what he did.
I lost affection for everything in the fucking world in no time flat, because I didn't feel anybody was fucking liking me. People in Jack's, they're making me sick. I want to fight Pete every day. Every time I come home, I give him a sassy attitude. All I want to do is fight now. My mind's set on a fucking death course. I'm getting mean on the inside. I'm getting fucking mean. It's unbelievable. I'm getting fucking meaner than hell. This is bullshit. If I hear you lock me up with Mark. Just lock me up with Mark.
I'm not going to lock you up.
You want to see another murder? Lock me up with that fucking clown.
Why don't you hold his hand?
Rossi, is this
the guy that you were working for?
Yes, Ma. And he just wanted me. I wanted so much fucking money. I wanted love. It's unbelievable. I wanted everything. That's why I tried. Because I wanted to make it for myself. Like everybody else does. I wanted to make it for myself. And when you left me here, I thought to myself, why can't I make it like every other fucking person makes it?
You were making it. You were so happy 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but then when more money came into my fucking eyesight, I fucking snapped.
This guy is about 26 years old.
29, 30, something like that. 30. 30, just had a birthday. He's sick, Mom.
Kind of
And remember when I told you back when when you guys fucking thought I was nuts when I told you about Marin County? Remember that? Remember when I told you, oh, Marin County's gonna fucking go into one of these fucking helter-skelter, but nobody would listen to me. Nobody would listen to me. They all thought I was just fucking going off the wall. He's fucking going nuts. He's going nuts. My little sister freaked out with me. Freaked out on me, and I fucking drove me nuts. Because I didn't think she fucking cared about me anymore. And they all just fucking just didn't even exist in my fucking life anymore. So I started paying for myself. Just like anybody else would. And so I turned fucking savage. I want to get Mark back to this. He kept telling us all this shit. Every fucking realistically and fucking that other word.
What was he telling you?
Oh, well, we're going to have so much of everything, kids.
How was Andrew involved? He was there?
He wasn't there when I did this. He was at the house when we went. And all he did was he was a thief, Mark was a brain, and I was a murderer.
Could you elaborate a little bit about what kind of things Mark told you to get you so antagonized like that? Or make you feel the way you feel?
And I told him, what kind of type of people I don't like. I guess that was a fucking mistake right there. Because everything that I told him, half the questions that I said were inside what this guy did.
Yeah.
So that's just...
So he built up a pretty bad picture of what Dick was in your mind, right?
I know. And I just flipped.
How'd you meet Mark?
Through a guy named Willie, and he took off to fucking Navy.
How long ago?
A week. Monday. He left Monday.
No, I mean, okay, how long ago did you meet Mark? I'm sorry.
3 months. 3 or 4 months. Fucking damn mother. Oh, where is he? Just let me have him for 10 minutes.
Well, is he saying that?
He's telling lies out his asshole, Mom. The guy never told the truth to us, so why should he tell the police the truth? He's never told. The people we work for, he never told the truth to.
Well, if Andrew wasn't there, he's only an accessory.
He's not an accessory, Mom. He helped me touch the guy. He was carried the guy. So he's just like I am. See, Mark. See, the
Mark
thing
was
is,
just
money
standing in the background.
talks and crime walks. That's all Mark did to us. Because Andrew is just like me. If there's money around, that guy's greedy for money, just like I am, because he doesn't have nothing either. So we're all on money. And then when he told us there
So
was
while
money
you
involved,
two were doing all this little dirty work,
He
was
wasn't
just
doing
standing there
shit.
watching.
he was watching the whole time, handing me screwdrivers, handing me knives,
He handed you the knife.
and screwdriver. That's flat. When I hit him in the... Ma, listen. I crushed his head. I hit him once, I stepped back 10 feet. I came back in, hit him about 3 times. I stepped back again. His hand went back for his back like he was going to get a gun. I stepped over onto his chest. I slammed the fucking screwdriver through. I put a knife up there. I stepped on the knife. The knife crumbled into a billion pieces. I grabbed another regular knife, screwdriver. I stuck it through the side of his head, and I stuck it through the side right there in the tip. And I turned it around like a blender.
These people like Joanne, have said they've read all the court transcripts and there's flaws within it all. Some of the flaws that she speaks about are just so crazy.
Okay,
I put it to the retired deputy.
Actually, Julian Salt is in the chat. He just said hi, Julian. Thanks for being here. do you have any comments that you want to say about that little piece right there, Kevin, that we just played? Other than it's pretty
yes.
shocking to listen to.
Yeah. I mean, that police interview is just terrible, and just to think how Mr. Baldwin left this planet, and I mean, it was one of the most horrendous ways to have your life ended, right? And both myself and Jeff agree on a lot of things, especially on that how disgusting that is.
Really got me rattled, and yeah, for him to prey on these guys. Hi, Julian. Yes, we know you visited
Hey,
the
Julian.
prison.
Yeah. Julian
Julian.
met Mark a number of times. I mean, Julian knows the story really well as well. So yeah, I just want to say one thing as well, that with the safe wasn't in the back of Mark's pickup truck. The wheels and some other parts of the safe the wheels were definitely there. Crossy had actually dumped the safe just prior, and in the police interview, which the full version's not been released yet, he talks about where he dumped it, and they I believe they did recover the safe as well as part of the evidence. I believe they did, and
they also found the wheels to the safe in the back of Mark's pickup truck. And he changed his story under being interrogated too when he got caught in his lies. And he said he didn't know anything about it. Crossy just picked it up on the side of the road, brought it home. And they said, well, then why'd we find the wheels to it in your pickup truck?
Absolutely. And
his tune.
I mean, look,
he wasn't off planet. He was at his mom's house having lunch.
Yes.
Yeah, he wasn't tied to the murder scene, but he was tied to the marina. He was ID'd there. They're just gonna keep on denying because I honestly, I don't think that either one of them makes a lot of money off of this.
Well,
let's
just go there. Let's just go there.
They have the attention. This is their attention gravy train.
Yeah. Well. Obviously, Joanne's heard, and her followers have heard this now. This crossing her over testimony that's only just come out to the public, right? And for them to say it means nothing to them, that's just not the case. I mean, logical people and people with a brain can know that that is a true testimony there, just based. I mean, I'm no psychology degree, but just look at his voice here. I mean, listen to his voice and what he says. It's just obvious that he had just been arrested, and here's the thing with Crossy, he's always stuck with his story. He's never changed it. So yeah. Yeah,
so Julian says he's a master con man. I have proof in the false degrees. He claims he has 4 degrees from 3 countries in 5 years. Physically impossible, as well as claiming to be a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford.
Yes. So without I mean, not only did Julian initially fund this, right, but he gave me the certificates, and I took pictures of them. He's got all his stuff. I mean, it was information like that, which was just so useful in looking into the Mark Richards story, because obviously Joanne's never going to release those certificates, because they're not true. I mean, Julian was speaking to, as we've said, Mark for a long while, and it was Kerry Cassidy that put me in contact with Julian, because she said to me, and it was in the end of the conversation that we've probably not heard.
You have the whole phone call uploaded on your channel, don't you, Terry?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I don't know if she says in there. Does she say in that conversation about going to see Julian? I can't remember.
She drops Julian's salt in it.
That's right, and that's right. And Julian had never. I think Julian is okay for me to say that he'd heard the opposing opinion before, and actually I feel that Joanne, because Joanne likes to control the conversation, let's be honest, right? And she controls it all the way through, and she controlled it as well with Julian. I think Julian wanted to get his case reopened, and I don't think she really wanted him snooping in there and looking at the case. And it was myself that went to see Julian just after coming back from seeing Jeff and being introduced to all these backlinks of the case and everything else. And, I think it was a bit of a shock to him to begin with, because he had put a large portion of his time into, supporting Mark, and he was going to financially support him as well. And the only reason that Mark turned him down financially, which was a really good thing he did towards Julian, was he knew that there was nowhere to go for this case.
No chance.
Right.
No chance. Because like I've said, and like the facts say, his lawyers were some of the best that they could get.
Exactly.
They didn't try to build a defense for him and get him off. They knew he wasn't getting off. They just saved him from the gas chamber.
Well, as Julian says there, on the front, sort of some of the certificates, they're clearly labels stuck on template degrees. Of course they are. They're just, Mark made him in prison, but of course they're true to Joanne. Yeah, there he goes. He was about to fund his parole until Mark told him to stop because there was no funding it.
That right there is probably the only good thing Mark has ever done in his life.
That's what I said. Yeah, absolutely. Because he could have took his money and
he wouldn't have got the money, but the lawyers would. But
well, that's what I'm saying. So the lawyers are the only ones that weren't paying. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess there's a little speck of a heart in there somewhere.
Well, he didn't want people snooping into his case. He was quite happy, as you've always said, Jeff, to be institutionalized because he may not be ready to ever admit to what he did.
Well, so I only found out tonight about that I own business, and that is not something to move on from.
That is interesting, Jeff. That is really interesting.
That is very significant. He would only be there if he was a J-Cat on heavy-duty psychotic meds. My friend was there, and he was a level 3 closed B status. And you know who was on his cell block? Tex Watson.
Okay.
I know that. I've been to that prison.
Well, that says a lot.
They moved my friend from where Mark's at now up to I owned Mule Creek, and that's how.
I wonder if if other inmates have said to, hey, this guy's suffering more mentally than the rest. He needs help. Do you know what I mean? What delusions was he saying in prison?
They all are suffering.
Well, yes.
Especially the ones that are maxed out, like Richard.
And even if that was true, right? And I know I'm not saying it's not Jeff, but even if it was, he would still deny it to his wife, and she'd still believe him. Just like he told her the story of the space legs, where he went to go see a doctor externally. They took him out because he wasn't well, from some vascular problem with one of his legs, and the doctor was like, "Well, if I didn't know better, I'd say you've been into space looking at those legs." And of course, it's believed because that's what the story was told. Unless we've got two cons together here, and actually Joanne is on it, and it looks like to me. Yes, she's mentally manipulated because he's the largest manipulator, but she may be in on this con as much as he is.
So Julian says he respected me while I was writing to him. The minute I spoke out, Mark kicked me off of the EDH board of directors and replaced me with Gil Banks.
Jill Banks. Gillian Banks is the lady that is a psychic friend, but she's also channeled Ellis Lloyd Richards. And when she's done the channeling, it's like, you're doing great. Of course, you're on the right road. Keep going on this road.
Jerry,
my old psychic friend who I think is obsessed with Mark, and and had desires on his house, and then Carrie is obsessed with Mark. So I'll continue on the video too, but
sure.
I noticed that Carrie says that Carrie's Sixth Sense says Carrie's channel is gone again
on YouTube. There is I think someone else is uploading some of her stuff on there right now, but she's gone.
Okay.
As Jeff would say, she's been kicked off, and actually her following has decreased. She would say it's different, but see, this is why she's stuck on the QAnon stuff right now, because that's where the traffic is right now.
I was kind of hoping we could do this show tonight and not mention her.
I know, but
I know. Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Let's keep the name to that, just to that point. Bergen County.
Here.
Okay, let's keep going here. I'm going to take it up to the district attorney because what he says is compelling.
Yeah, I find that
That puts the nail in the coffin for it.
The day. I mean, things like, well, anyone that knew Dick knew that Dick, only wore shorts, and the body, because I had the autopsy pictures, and what she was doing with the autopsy pictures, I don't know, but I had the autopsy pictures, but I gave it to someone, so I don't have it anymore. But he was wearing shorts and sorry, trousers, and everyone knows that Dick doesn't wear trousers. I'm like, what is Mark feeding you to even think that's an opposing opinion, right? Or that Mark's defense team wasn't allowed access to Baldwin's body. That they weren't allowed medical record access to figure out whether the DNA had linked to, was that the body or not? Well, when you read the actual court transcribes or even the preliminary hearing, it talks about they took Mark's blood. There was blood, enough blood in the body to verify it. Mum verified it. She had to see her dead son in that bloody state, and dental records identified it as well. There's so many little things that Joanne says that are just, it was embarrassing to have to ask the DA of 42 years who's done over 300 cases, these types of questions. But what do you do? I mean, we've got to represent Joanne's take on it as well.
Quick question, if you don't mind. How long did it take them to actually find Mark as well as the other boys?
Well, it was I think it was about a week. Now, she says as well that Andrew changed his court testimony 3 times. And she also says that Andrew's testimony was hearsay. But when you speak to the retired DA, hearsay is allowed. Where she's getting that hearsay is not allowed, she's saying that his testimony is hearsay. When you listen to which she was invited onto, when she don't want to come onto it, she didn't want to come onto it. She was invited to be as part of that group discussion. Says a lot when she didn't want to be invited onto it, doesn't it? That's just not the case. She went into detail about how his testimony was allowed. And, when she says that, they changed the date of death 3 times. Well, unfortunately, like the Barbarian said, we were trying to do our best on, because there's the body had been discovered, then you've got to sort of backtrack it as best you can do to, when his body was dumped into the bay. It all made sense that it was the day, July 6th. You had some great detectives like Ted Lindquist and Walt Costa that, put a lot of time, and many others as well, which we'll talk about in the docuseries, that got this down to a T. There was a big team involved in this at one point because there was so much evidence, so much testimony. Even Karen in the end remembered him coming back at 3 o'clock in the morning. What was he doing coming back at 3 o'clock? Going out for fishing? I don't think so. So, yeah.
Might be. I've gone
I
out
don't
fishing
think
right
so.
after work a couple of times,
Oh, yeah. Fishing for a way to get out of it.
Right.
He even took Karen on the boat within that week. And she realizes now when they were out in the rain on the boat, he was looking for if the body had risen. He was just going over his mark,
farther,
which is interesting.
I can do that.
So if you've got any questions, I could keep going.
To me,
it might actually act up on me now because I'm pushing it.
I mean,
because my internet. Oh, come on. Now I'm going to have a problem. Maybe I'm
abuse to get her in more. Get that fish eye bidding. This is my dream. It's your dream. But you can see the cracks showing when she does the book that she does because she's becoming empowered. There's a change. Now she could be manipulative. She could be very manipulative, and actually she's playing both directions where she's going to get the property when he dies, and she's just waiting for that, or there's other reasons why she's doing this. So it could be her. It could be 2 manipulators with each other, and he's the largest disease, or it could be that she's just absolutely, she talks about in love with him, I gush, almost when he comes in. I know that he's a captain because, Captain Mark Richards is walking through. You can tell the presence. People forget that his dad was in the military for a long time. Here's another thing about his dad as well. He talks about all these secret space program missions with his dad, right? Dad was in the wheelchair in the court trial. Dad was with a walker. Has maneuvered, unless he's controlling it from his wheelchair. No, Mark never released any of this until his mum died, because even though his mum died of dementia, they would have been so upset with them doing this. When the year Mum's Mark died was the year he sent Joanne to the conference. First conference. Mum's dead now. Off you go. Do my bidding. And it's this reinvention of Pendragon, this ability to manipulate people. I guess he's bored, right? I guess. But at the same time, there's something deeper that he's getting from it. Do you know what I mean? There's some kink that he's getting from it. And I know people are going to disagree with me, but I do feel sad for her. I do feel sad for Joanne. There's so many holes in this, right? I think we should do as well, if it's all right with you guys, just watch a little bit of one of my interviews, right? Because you just get a flavor of the quality of people that are coming on what they've got to say. Now, this is an unedited version of the interview that I was going to get invited Joanne and some of her people like Gillian Banks. Gillian Banks is a lady in England that is a friend of Joanne Richards. And Gillian Banks, I think Joanne does her bookkeeping as well. That's her UK client. But I believe that Gillian Banks is channeling Lloyd Ellis Richard, the father of Mark Richards, to Joanne quite a bit. And she's, misleading Joanne in believing that what the message that's coming through from this channeled message is, you're doing great. No. Why is she getting that misleading message from Gillian Banks and other channelers? Well, I guess it's as simple as this. That's what she needed to hear. That's what her soul needed to hear, to carry on, to go as far as possible with this until something breaks, which will be the progression of her soul, or the expansion of something. Because how's she going to really feel? Look at the pictures on my wall, and I'll put some pictures on the screen of them together. You can see how in love she is and besmitten she is by him. So I don't even want to say anything from that before I play a video. Let's just play a video. Okay, let's just go. I'm going to skip bits. Let's just go from the very beginning.
Okay.
So this is retired Deputy DA Edward Barbarian, 42 years. He put Mark away, and he was at many of the parole hearings of Cross and Hoover over the years. I asked him what was it like to meet Ellen Baldwin and what this murder did to her and her family. And he talks about it. It was just devastating.
Yeah, my perspective on this is I just want to make sure that it's very clear really who Mark Richards is. And a lot of this bizarre stuff that I now see that's out there is just very strange.
In all the cases you've done, what was different about this case?
This one, just the use of, I guess, use of the fantasy tale to try to entice and recruit the people he wanted to help him commit this murder and theft that he ultimately set this whole thing up to accomplish. And the way he did it, the way that he developed this plot was different than what you see in many cases that you deal with.
Thank you. So this is going to we're going to get back into the case a little bit. This still relates to it, but have you kept up with the, and we want to call it nonsense, of what's being posted about Mark Richards currently?
To be honest, no, I have not been following that on a regular basis. It was until your folks kind of reached out to me and said, here's what we've been finding. I did some quick Google research to see some of this stuff, and yeah, it's very strange. But I was not, regularly every month or year trying to figure out what Mark Richards was doing. He just is a very disturbed young man. I mean, not young man anymore, but was a very disturbed young man. I think very narcissistic, and compelled to try to accomplish things from a money standpoint that he couldn't do through his own business efforts. And the way he got into this was just very strange.
Do you recall any evidence forensically linking Mark back to the wrappings that were on the body of Baldwin, or any?
Well, that's why. I'm sorry. That's why the truck is so important. That when they made that contact with the truck, you find in that truck the material that was used to wrap his body. You found cable material, duct tape, and we did have experts from the California Department of Justice come in and testify about the fact that I believe it was the cable, there was a match involved, that they could say that cable had been used to wrap the body or secure the boat motor to the body, so that with Mark, being the one in possession of that in that truck, that is a forensic link to him in the crime. And there's duct tape too in there, because the body was wrapped with duct tape, and we did have some work done on that. And the duct tape, from a forensic standpoint, it's kind of like looking at a bullet rifling. You know how you have stripes and things that appear when someone's been shot? Well, you can look at the construction of duct tape, and it will have unique patterns as far as the material that's used in the duct tape roll. And that duct tape roll had the same type of stripe markings that the ones that were found on the body had. So you had that type of a link forensically. In those days, what was this, 1982 or so?
Yes.
DNA was not really a thing that was, it was out there, I guess basically in Great Britain at that point.
Yes, it was.
But but it really was not something that was being used regularly like it is now. So we didn't have that type of DNA material available, or even probably the training or knowledge on how to look for that.
I believe there was a bloody paw mark.
Oh, yes. Yeah, what before DNA, what was used was the standard blood typing work that can be done when you find a blood sample or bodily fluids, and you could get ABO typing, things of that nature, as well as some other markers. And what was found at the murder scene, which was the classic garage owned by Baldwin, on a bumper was the bloody palm print of Hoover. That was there.
His current wife goes on she's been on a number of talk shows. I mean, she continues because they don't vet her and they'll just take her on to tell her story. And in most of those shows, she talks about Mr. Baldwin being a child pornographer, and that Mark found out that he was actually making child porn. I don't believe that was ever in the court case. And as I spoke to Walt, it wasn't. As I spoke to Detective Costa, he did say to me that had even come up at the time, that would have been in the court case.
It would have been part of whatever was presented. We don't try to, your victims come in all shades as to what their characters are like. That, as horrible as that type of a thing would have been, it would have been something that would have been rolled into the case as part of the material. It would have been obvious if that had come into the case that it would have been something, again, that can be pointed to that Mark Richards would have used.
What do you recall of Mark's mother, Lois? And
she was an enabler, I think, of him. She was extremely protective of him. That's about what I can say. She definitely, I think, was part of Mark's problem, was his mother. But
that's interesting. And what do you remember of Mark's father in the court case?
Not, to be honest, not a lot. He was not in physically a very good condition, as I recall at the time. one of the things I did pick up in looking at this material that's been floating out here is how Mark is referred to as a naval officer or something. I mean, he was not in the,
a captain.
Yeah, which is just ludicrous. He was never in the military that I'm aware of. Now the father was I'm told was a different situation. He did have some military contact, was a respected military man, I believe, but his son, Mark, was not a captain in the Navy by any means. So I don't know where that all comes from.
So with his father, then, was he in a wheelchair during the court case?
Yeah, and that's what I recall, is that he was in a wheelchair, and I really had very little to no contact with him.
I believe he had a metal plate in his head as well.
Yeah, he could have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So he was wheeled in by Lois into the court, I guess.
Yeah, I believe he did accompany her, or she brought him to court, I believe.
In the wheelchair, yeah. Okay, because obviously at the Mark at the time is saying that him and his father were there were various missions they were doing abroad and stuff, and I find that difficult to believe in his ill health at that time.
Yeah, I would doubt that. I just can't believe he was doing anything along those lines.
Now, Joanne states that she has the autopsy photos, or she did have the autopsy photos, and according to her, the photo of Mr. Baldwin where it was wearing the wrong pants at the time the body was discovered, and this could not have been Mr. Baldwin, because anyone that knew Mr. Baldwin knows that he only wore shorts, and when the body was recovered, he was wearing pants. The body was wearing pants.
I don't know what she's referring to, or whether there's any truth to the fact she has autopsy photos. I don't know anything about that.
Joanne states that the death of Mr. Baldwin was changed 3 times.
What do you mean by changed 3 times?
Well, she's saying that the death date, I do apologize, the death date of Mr. Baldwin was changed 3 times.
Well, one of the issues was trying to exactly pin down when the actual killing occurred. As the charging documents usually are worded in the sense on or about whatever the date is. Remember, his body was found on a certain day floating, and then trying to backtrack back to when the actual killing occurred. That becomes more of an issue, a difficult issue to say exactly that it was, July the 6th or July the 7th, or in a range. It was never consciously changed because there was some, nefarious reason to change it. It was trying to be as accurate as we could about when the actual killing occurred.
Joanne Richards uses this term that all the
again, what she says, I mean, when you look at these other things she claims to be happening, how can you give her any credibility on anything that she says?
She talks about something. She says that all the people involved, the kids involved especially, had family ties to what she calls the New World Order, and that the New World Order hated Mark, and this was a crime to put Mark away as a political crime.
I've no information that we ever gathered there's anything close to that existed. Again, Richards was manipulating these people. They were not. It was not the reverse situation in any way.
Absolutely. Mr. Joanne Richards claims as well that Andrew's testimony was hearsay, and he never witnessed the death of Baldwin. And usually, she says, in U.S. courts, you're not allowed to use hearsay testimony in U.S. courts.
He could testify and did testify to what he had knowledge of, and hearsay does have exceptions that can be used if it goes to what we call admissions. As to the fact that if Mark was telling them that here's how this murder could happen, those could be statements that now could be retold. They're hearsay in the sense that, Mark's not on the stand telling these things or whatever at the time, but they are exceptions to the hearsay rule, having to do with admissions or co-conspirator statements used to accomplish the object of a conspiracy, which would be the killing of Richards. I mean, there are exceptions. So just a blanket statement that hearsay can't be used in some fashion is not a correct statement of the law.
She also, Miss Joanne Richards, states that Andrew Campbell, well, sorry, I should just say Andrew, changed his testimony at least 3 times to suit the DA's narrative.
I don't. Again, I really don't know how to comment on that. He told what he could recall. He answered questions that he was asked. Could there be inconsistencies? Sometimes. Most witnesses do. From time to time, there are some inconsistencies, but the substance of what he said is strongly supported by all the corroborative evidence. And I don't think there was major inconsistencies that would cast his testimony in doubt as to what he or what happened.
If Mark had served in the military, right, that would have been in his case, in his defense, wouldn't it? I mean,
well, I would assume as part of what you could, I don't know if the records are still available or not, the probation investigation and reports that would lead to, that had to be prepared before final sentence was pronounced and things of this nature, they go into backgrounds and check things out like that. I have nothing that shows that he was active military at the time. Again, his father was.
Yes.
But as far as him, no, I have no information on that.
So when you hear now that he's going by Captain Mark Richards, and even on the interview, the number of interview shows that Joanne's doing, where they talk about, or they refer to Mark as Captain, how does that make you feel when you hear that?
Well, I think it's disgusting, for one thing. And, the Navy, I'm sure the Navy, they're probably not even paying that much attention to what he's doing at the moment. But they would certainly, I would think, find that to be very offensive. A naval captain is a high position in their chain of custody. I mean, that's a higher level officer than just an introductory ensign or something. That's somebody that's, been there for a while, has worked their way through the chain of command, and a naval captain is not an insignificant position.
Just to let you know, that at the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum, his wife has laid an honor with Captain Mark Richards and his father.
I'm going to go ahead and pause it there. I just wanted to get that little section here, and I'm going to share your video in the chat. Let me stop the share here, and then we'll make sure that I include it in the description of this video as well. And I encourage you guys to subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe to Kevin Moore's channel and follow him on this docu-series, because there's just so much more to come out on this. I just, like, you guys, I want to get. I can't believe it. We've almost done 3 hours. Eh?
I know.
You hung in there hard. I'm really proud of you guys. Jeff, you have a birthday coming up on Saturday. It's Julian's birthday tomorrow.
Julian and I share the same birthday.
Okay, but is Julian is he in the UK? Is he?
Yeah, it was still now. It's still 6 minutes, and then it turns Friday because he said happy birthday tomorrow. He's in the UK, but
yeah.
I see where he cleared all these leaves off of Earth Defense Headquarters. That place is a shambles, and no one's there now. I'd like to know who's protecting the Earth. The place is just in shambles, but hopefully we'll get through this.
I just want to add as well that I did actually get to meet Andrew in the end. It took me a very long time to trace him down, and to this day, that murder and his part in it affects him to this day. Especially when people close to him find out that he was part of that crime. It causes him to have to move sometimes. That's a number of times, and he's had lots of counseling over it. And it's everything he told me over the phone just was what Crossy told me. So I was so grateful to meet him, well, to speak to him at least, because I was just, I just really wanted to know, this one person that could put it all together, what's he got to say? So I know that was important. And just to say this as well, that there were civil cases by Susan Baldwin brought against a lot of the Pendragon boys, and including Andrew as well. So Mum didn't just stop with the court case.
This has affected so many lives. So many lives. And then it gets worse when people like Carrie Cassidy or anybody that gives Joanne a platform to spew this crap.
Well, she's done the book now. She's got the book. I mean, what's that going to mean?
I don't know how these people can sleep at night or look them. Well, they're sociopaths.
Yes.
Mark's a sociopath.
I agree with that.
I wouldn't consider him a psychopath because a psychopath is more methodical. Crossy's a sociopath. They react on spur of the moment, on their temper or whatever. I mean, you heard that very disturbing confession from Crossy.
Well, he's working on that. I mean, he's been working on that.
Yeah,
for
but
a long
I'm just
time.
simply saying the difference between sociopaths and psychopaths.
Sure.
Mark didn't think this out. He winged it. And then when the going got tough, who got going? Out on the
right.
the whole bit. But
he even
evidence that ties him to this, and
right.
Anybody with half a brain cell can see it, So they can go on and denying all they want. They just, people are seeing them for what they truly are.
He even took Karen out a few days after they dumped the body, and he was looking to see if the body had come up, but to her they're just having a nice little picnic out on the bay, on the boat, but he's looking for his mark, as you do. So I just want to say,
that's love, right? That's when you're in the wrong relationship, when the guy that you're dating is looking up for the body that he killed while he's taking a picnic on a boat. That's
but of course everything we've watched there, none of it means nothing to Miss Richards, and except for the hearsay, and that's a shame. It's a shame.
And it's sad that she says there's no evidence linking him to this crime. It's chock full of evidence.
Yeah, and if you don't look at the crime, you can't. You see the SSP workers for what it is, just a load of shambles, a load of rubbish.
She's free to have her opinion, and I'll let her have her opinion. But it's not what. Unfortunately, in what she chooses to believe or not to believe has no effect on reality.
There's a question here about Joanne's channel. Does Joanne have a channel?
No, she doesn't, but she's got Dragon Hill Books Publishing, which is a publishing company, and she's got EDHQ. I think is it .net or .org? I think .org. If you just type in EDHQ, Earth Defense Headquarters, and Mark Richards, you'll find him. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you, both of you doing this with us.
Thank you.
Sorry, I should say I
sorry to leave my cat getting into the, he's like a child, and this is that's when he goes crazy. So he's like, he had like this in his mouth. I'm like, no.
Well, we got into this way back.
I have treats. I'm trying to con him to be quiet. I've got treats here.
You'd be like Simon Parkinson with all the cats.
I
should probably end the show here pretty soon because he's
started this a long time ago, Kevin. One of the things that just cracks me up is because my two daughters were with us when we were down in Marin County.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And they're in the back seat, and they're not very old. And we pull up to the marina, and Bella asks, "What are we doing now?" And Say goes, "Oh, this is where they dumped the body."
You know what? There were times when I forgot that they were there because it was so quiet.
It's hilarious.
And I was yapping away to you and saying things that, no, there was. I enjoyed all that filming, and that all that filming and much more that I've done. And there's so much more to do to this, and I'm gonna give it the justice it deserves. I want to, it's going to take time yet, but 2023, I truly believe that that's the end for me for this. And to be quite honest, yes, I'll be doing media interviews after to promote it and everything else, but after that, I've got I've got the ISNN, the International Spiritual News Network, that I want to concentrate on, and I'll be glad to put this to bed. But to see it through is just so important for me right now. So that's why we're taking our time to get it right.
Well, I thought that DA.
Thank you for seeing it through.
DA was very, very compelling.
Yes.
And then to find out tonight on this show about
right. I thought you knew that. Yeah. I guess you didn't. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Sixth Sense was saying that when you Google Pendragon cult, this came up number 2nd in the listing, this live stream right now. So that's kind of exciting.
I think that goes by the
That's cool. That's well done. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Thank you, Kevin, and thank you for keeping on this. Because it's really important, I think, because a lot of us are in this UFO grouping and community and everything, and then to pick it apart and find out what's the truth and what's really being scammed. And this is a huge thing, and it's been just covered up, like I know. And so it's
yeah. And I thank Jeff for bringing the story to me as well, because I'm, there were times when I was like, I just don't want to do this no more, but I don't feel that way. I've had a lot going on, but this is, I'm very pleased to be.
Yeah, I walked away from it for probably more than the last year, although we talk from time to time.
Yeah.
But, Kevin told me when we started this over 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. No,
5 years nearly, almost.
Nah, well, whatever. But he said,
it is, yeah.
I think that when this is finally done, it's going to be totally different than what we know now. Boy, was he right. Boy, was he right. And there was a lot of people that expressed interest in it, other clowns in this UFOlogy, like they thought we were coming after them next or whatever, or tried to tell us what to do, what not to do.
Oh, I remember.
I'm not going to mention any names, but
no.
God, Kevin went at this like an animal. They were banking on the fact that this happened so long ago. Kevin never would have been able to 5 years. Okay, Julian.
Yeah, I think
they were banking on most of these people being dead or the witnesses.
Yes.
Kevin never run. I didn't even imagine he was going to run down the people he did. I was with him when he ran down Karen Bacon.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you guys, I'd hate to make this party end, but
I know, but we've got to get going.
I want to thank Mario Keiko, because I think he left at one point, take his medication, and then came back for coffee. So he really hung in there for the 3 hours.
Thank you for hanging in there. Yeah.
But and I thank you for being here. You're Kevin and Jeff Reed. Thank you. It's the first time I've had you on the show, actually. I'm gonna. Is there any final thoughts? What you guys want to say before I? Let's start with Kevin. You got any final thoughts?
Get this latest stuff out and not let it die. And I think Kevin did a good job with the recordings of Crossend's confession, but more importantly, the retired district attorney Barbarian. That was so compelling. It's just sort of revived my interest. It really has.
And I double on what Jeff's saying there, but I'll also add as well. I hope it's going to be a docu-series of discernment in this community to, really, try to hone in on that for people. Just because someone says something, right? How does it really feel? And, we've lost some of us, our sense of discernment. So, yeah. So thank you both.
Julian says we've been at this 5 years, and I've been trying to get somebody to pay attention to this project for 5 years. So I'll put in 10 years. 10 years on this.
Right.
Well, all right. Well, thank you guys. I'm gonna I will say goodbye to I guess this is the first time I've ever had anybody say goodbye to anybody here.
You have a nice night now.
Okay, so I wanted to
Joanne. Good night.
Okay, Kick from studio. Okay, so I'm gonna say goodbye to Kevin and Jeff, and then I'm gonna end the show out. Thank you very much. It's the way it says kick gas. Yeah, you're kick them out of here. All right, they're gone from the studio. All right. I just wanted to turn you guys on again, remind you that I have written a couple of articles on my blog, and I'm going to pull this up really quick before I go just to kind of show you. This is, it's taken a moment. Okay, I'm going to share the screen really quick. Just another plug. I have a Not My Rabbit Hole blog, and I've done a couple of articles. One of the articles was my final in my journalism class, okay? And I did that on Stephen Cambion, so you can read about that here from Truth Seekers. I also did an article called The Neo-Homeless, and this was an essay that I wrote. And I want you to kind of be aware of some stuff about this. I talk about homelessness from the pandemic, the different types of programs that have happened for people that were homeless, different lifestyles like van life. And then I also talk about a program that I'm in at my college that helped me out, because last year, right before finals, I ended up not having a home, and I'm in a subsidized housing kind of situation. I am a journalism major. I'm looking to transfer to digital journalism. Is going to be where I want to get my BA at. And one way that you can support me here on the channel is to RSS feed it, look at the, read it, maybe hit an advertisement, because I am on Google's AdSense. I do have something going on with me right now. It's just a little hiccup, but I did have an issue with my financial aid. I kind of am in a rough spot. So if you do want to donate, or I have a birthday coming up on July 4th, if you want to give me a little birthday gift, I'm going to run a little ticker tape here on that. Here, so you can kind of see there. Also, if you go to my blog and you click onto one of the articles, there's a donate button there too, but I've got PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. There's also in the description here. Anyway, and I'm also, like, I just have a little rough patch until August, because I'll be tutoring biology anthropology at the college, which I'm really excited. I know it's kind of out of left wing, but I'm actually going to tutor part-time because I took biology anthropology last semester, and they asked me to tutor. So, oh, what did I do here? I didn't mean to do that. Oh, yeah. And then, yeah, okay, I do want this. So I'm going to leave with a little video that I did about this. And I just want to thank you all for being here tonight. This was a really, I have been into this topic since I did a show with Kevin Moore about 2 years ago. So I've been following Kevin's work, and I really wanted to give this update about Mark Richards and the Pendragon Society and Carrie Cassidy and all the other scamming things that are out there, because we are looking for the truth, right? All right. So good night, you guys. Good morning, actually. And I hope, like, your Friday and your holiday weekend here in the United States is good. Hope you enjoy it. And I have a birthday on Monday, so here we go. We're going to be 1 year older, but hey, I'm still alive, right? That's the main thing. Hi, everybody. Right. I wanted to let you know about my blog that I have online. It's at notmyrabbithole.com. Now, I actually just posted a new post, and the title, Hi everybody, I wanted to let you know about my blog site. It's called notmyrabbithole.com, and just recently I uploaded a new article, a new post. It's actually an essay that I wrote in my English 3 critical thinking class. It was my final at the end of last fall. In the essay, I pretty much cover the homeless situation that we have here in California, and you know, I guess it applies for other states too. I also talk about the 7 million people that were going to be potentially displaced and homeless because they couldn't work during the pandemic, and the different programs that helped them and how maybe they failed them too. Right now, I am in a program that I talked about in my essay that I actually am in now at the moment. And so that's in the essay as well. It is a subsidized housing that helps students at the college that I go to. So I will be following up on how successful that program's been in my next blog. I hope that you will include my blog in your RSS feed and that you will share it, and that you will also tune into my podcast that I have as well. You can also like me on Facebook at Not My Rabbit Hole. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Twitter, and this is on TikTok. I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.